Hi, this is Simone Bianchi, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness. Joining me this week is Jason.
Hello.
Wesley.
Heyo.
Keith.
How are you?
Josh.
Hey.
And special guest this week, Matt Ditullio. Is that how you pronounce it?
No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Brilliant.
Italian.
Okay.
It's part
There
Italian.
we go. There we go. Good. Welcome, sir. I've wanting to do this for such a long time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And finally, we make this happen.
Yeah.
Matt, you may not know this. In fact, it's the kind of information that you wouldn't retain. But you joined Marvel Masterpieces Collectors on the 16th of October, 2018 at 2:09 p.m. And you were the 235th member of the group.
Would have never known.
So you're one of the OGs. Yeah, I went through this mad, crazy period of actually keeping records of all that shit. And after about 500 members, it was like, forget it.
It's too much.
It literally was too much. It was some crazy idea that Fausto had to do membership cards.
235th member. I'll remember that.
Anyway, that's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
But anyway, you're one of the OGs basically from that group because it started. Only started a couple of months prior, if that. So,
yeah, and I remember. I actually just remember Googling Facebook Marvel Masterpieces because obviously I knew the set was coming out, and I found the group literally like by chance.
Yeah,
that's how I found the group and joined it and met some very great friends and amazing trades, amazing purchases, learned a ton, by the way, because I had known nothing. I was a comic book collector and original art collector, prior to that. I was getting into the set really based on just Simone doing the work.
Yeah.
And I had to, I think what happens that's kind of really cool about the group is once you join in, you subsequently go back to previous sets and get to see other cool things that were going on and how other people collect. And so I didn't know anything about inserts or subsets at some points really still don't because they've gotten so complicated now. But, it was a really cool learning experience and it really opened up my eyes to a whole different way of collecting, a whole different avenue that I really wasn't aware of. And very thankful for the group, to be honest.
Oh no, I mean it's the people make the group, so I just pushed the button to make it happen in the first place. I'm curious then because what I want to know, I kind of want before we get into kind of your now, I kind of want to hear about your background because you were already clearly a very big fan and I think friend of Simone Bianchi's at that time, and you and some other guys who were also Simone stans, I think it's fairly safe to say. Otis and William Heath Lawson. You seem to be quite, you were the kind of the Simone fans who came in and basically, for a lot of people who hadn't seen Simone's work at that point. And remember, you joined the group 2 weeks before, it dropped. On the 31st of October. So what's your journey? How did you get into original art and how did you find Simone? And
it's a great question. But I'll give you the condensed answer of a very long story.
You go for as long as you want.
But I have tattoos. Otis, who you mentioned, is my tattoo artist. I didn't know Otis. I was supposed to go in and get a tattoo from a different guy. He was booked. So they said, oh, you can go over with this guy. And I go into a tattoo shop and it's just covered with all cutouts of like Marvel books, splash pages, covers, all artistically tacked up. It was kind of like a crazy, like Always Sunny episode with all the yarn and stuff. But I sit down and I start, I'm like, oh, I like Marvel comics. I start talking to this, this guy, tattoo on his face, looks super scary. And all of a sudden, about 30 minutes in, we realized we hadn't started anything and we were just talking about comics. We hadn't talked about what tattoo I was getting, anything like that. So he was like, hey, man, this was only supposed to be an hour. Won't be able to get it done. Why don't you come back, make an appointment? We'll do it. So I came back and we started talking about the X-Men and our favorite Marvel characters again, things like that. And I saw this guy on a piece of paper, like a splash page cut out, and I said, "Who's that?" And Otis is like, "Oh, that's Romulus. You don't know who that is?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, you got to read Astonishing X-Men Ghost Box by Warren Ellis and Simone Bianchi." I'm like, "All right, cool." He literally pulls the book out from his cupboard, gives it to me, and he's like, "Just come back, bring it back to me whenever you want." And then that was kind of it. I'd been already collecting, comic books, but I hadn't, been reading, I didn't, not a massive X-Men fan, but we got on X-Men because I just really likes them. And so I went back, read it, and I was like, the story was great. Warren Ellis, a great story writer, but the art was what really did it for me. So then I went on I tend to get hyper focused on things. So I went backwards and started collecting all of Simone's work from DC to current. And at that time, I was still going to the comic book shop every single Wednesday, picking up my pull list, things like that. So I continued on that journey for a while. I met Simone for the first time at New York Comic Con 2017. And I bought my first piece from it. After that, I was like, okay, now I've decided comics has been great. They've been really good, but they started to get crazy. Every hobby starts to get really, a little wild in some cases with different groups of people, ways things are looked at. And it just, one thing I always liked about collecting, it was pure. I could, it was just something I really enjoyed, and it started to get a little bit wild. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start to dwindle down my collection. So I started dwindling down my collection because I was like a rare variant hunter. I would always go after like the 1 in 100s, 1 in 50s, try to get them signed, remarked. So I said, all right, I want to go back like a little bit old school. So then I changed my focus to collecting just Fantastic Four and just keys. So after that, I was buying, very long period of time went by, but I got Fantastic Four 1 to 112 CGC graded. And then I had 112 to current, plus AF 15, Tales of Suspense 39, Journey into Mystery 83 and 85. Big comic books, ASM 1, ASM 5, ASM 13. And finally, I had gotten to a point where I was like really appreciating more original art than the books. I was literally saving money to buy books, but then I was selling books to buy original art. So got to a point where I was like, all right, maybe it's time to, make a change here. My parents moved out. I bought the house that I grew up in from them. And then I thought, I lived there for about a year. My neighbors changed, and I was like, you know what, maybe it's better to start fresh. So I sold my entire comic book collection. I bought the house that I live in now. It was a little small, 900 square foot house, fishing cabin, really. And it was at the time that Jake Paul and Logic were going crazy with Pokemon. And because I'm also a crazy collector just of random things, I had throughout the years, I had PSA 1 through 151 first edition of the Pokemon set. So I had the jungle, the fossil, everything. I kept it all in a Pelican case, was going around to comic book conventions throughout the years and picking them up as I went. I remember vividly, I was living at home at the time. I spent $500 on a first edition PSA 9 Charizard, and it came in the mail. And my dad opened it and saw the receipt, and he almost killed me because it was $500. And of course, if you're Italian, you understand if you live at home, your dad has the right to open your mail. So he opened my mail and sat me down and he gave me a very long talk about where to put my money, what I was doing, because he's a businessman. He taught me business my whole life. My family owns a business. And you got to be careful. You don't live outside your means. That's crazy. That's a car payment. That's this. And then after I bought that house, I ended up selling my whole entire Pokemon card collection and some Yu-Gi-Oh! Sealed starter decks, some stuff. And I put on a 2,000 square foot addition to my house, all from that. And everything that was left over, I invested into original art. And I think about 85% of it that was left over from selling 10 to 12 years of all my collecting of books, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was all Simone's art. It was, I did a lot of shopping. I did a lot of research. I looked at past covers, heritage auctions, comic link auctions, and everything that I saw. Of course, there were some other great artists out there, but I knew where the base of where I wanted to build my collection was through him. And I found out that it was really pretty hard to get his artwork over here in the United States because, Simone is such an amazing talent. And in Italy, his artwork goes extremely quickly. So a lot of the times the work doesn't make it over to the States. And, I'd worked with, been a very avid collector, messaging his sister Gloria for every week for a couple years. And I had been talking with Otis about, man, it's like a shame that we don't have the access to stuff that, across the pond people do, the Europeans, because Simone's work over here, the reason why he's not elevated to an insane level, in my opinion, is just exposure. I was like, somebody should make a plan. They should be his art rep over here. They should do this. And, I have for those of you who don't know, I have a full Winter Soldier arm tattoo that goes all the way. So spent a lot of time with Otis, talking to him. And finally, he was like, all right, you've been talking about this for like a year and a half. Just do it. Just make it happen. Like, put a business plan together and send it over to him. And if he says no, whatever, but it's literally makes too much sense. So I give Otis a lot of credit because he pushed me, to basically press the send button. And Simone read the email. His sister called me like, a couple of days later and was like, we're not sure if any of this would work, but you seem, like what you're doing, and let's have a meeting. So had a meeting, talked about it. I basically told them that I would guarantee them X amount of dollars of sales. And if I didn't hit that, then, they didn't have to pay me. I would do it. No problem. I would do it, for free. Just because it was like a passion of something I wanted to do. And he didn't think that anybody would, pay $10 to have his autograph or want to have a cup of coffee with him. He just thought it was, people just wanted to buy his art. And the more I got to know him, his art's amazing, but he's the real draw. He's just hilarious. He's one of a kind guy. And we ended up doing the very first breakfast at New York Comic Con, and I think it sold out, almost instantly. After that, they started sending me some covers and some preliminaries and some things for me to sell, and kind of just kept going from there. And now we are where we are. So, a little bit of a long collecting story. I went from getting a tattoo to collecting books to dwindling my collection down to really focusing on investment key books. I think I had AF-15 3.0, I had FF1 7.0, FF5 7.0. So I had some really, some books that took me a very, very long time to get, that were hard to see them go. But now I get to walk around my house and enjoy my house. And I get to, see some paintings on the wall that, I think one thing where, at least for me, that speaks volumes is there's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of X-Men ones out there. There's a lot of FF ones out there. They did make it. They may not be in the greatest condition, but they're out there. Whether they're a 3-hole punch from a kid that used to put them in a binder, or they're coverless, but they're out there. But there's only one of the original cover art for this comic book, or there's only one, behind me here, Hyperion versus Namor from Marvel Masterpiece Battle Spectra. There's only one of those. And that spoke more volumes to me, and it really directed me to original art, because I was following GPA very, very closely. I know a lot of the guys in these groups, they follow card sales very closely, and the comic market just started to become increasingly volatile. It was like shooting up, then it was dropping down. It was shooting up, it was dropping down. So I said, all right, well, let's look at the books that aren't going down. And they were the big books. So they cost more money to get into, but they had a track record of really, climbing throughout the years. And instead of investing my stuff in stocks or, bonds or IRAs, I just invested them in comic books. And I will say, my dad did tell me at the end that he was wrong, and he was proud of me for investing. And he couldn't believe what I sold my Pokemon card collection for. Wow. Any of these books. But yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am, and just kept building from there.
Wow. I mean, I guess you can't live in a comic book or Pokemon, the graded card case. So, so yeah, there is that. Wow. Okay. I'm Masterpieces 18 is obviously most people's gateway drug to Simone. Although I didn't realize until, weirdly, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, because I'd bought the Astonishing X-Men Ghost Box run back in the day, because I'd just come off the Whedon run. I carried on. I bought that, and I remember the artwork, but I don't remember the name of the artist. I just remember it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and I know it sounds really strange. It wasn't until about 2 years after this came out, having owning the set, that it suddenly occurred to me that is the book that I'd read back in the day, and it's suddenly like, okay. And then he did a Spider-Man 4 or 5 issue mini.
Yeah, he did the mini ASM, like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Yeah.
What was his story on? Was it Amazing Grace or something like that? There were a couple
There was it was a weird one because it was like a couple it was basically a buffer story to tie two stories together. So there was a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. Anyway, and I remember reading that as well about the same time, and I was like, then I suddenly clicked who this was. So, I mean, I guess the crazy thing with, I mean, we've talked about masterpieces until we're blue in the face. That's quite a door opener for both Simone, I imagine, in terms of exposure, and in terms of you. When did you kind of that New York Comic Con breakfast you were talking about was what, 2022? Was that? Because it's every autumn, isn't it?
Yes.
And we had there we go. Because Keith, you went to that, didn't you?
I did.
So you were one of the people that paid to have that breakfast, and was it a dinner as well?
That was just a breakfast. That was the first one. It was just a breakfast.
Yeah, that was the first one we did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Keith, you were there. Tell me about it. Or tell everyone about it, because obviously only a finite number of people could be there.
You know, it's funny. You sign up for something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm going to get an opportunity to get some art, and this is cool, and all these other things, and you really get your doors blown off you by Simone. He is an enigma. He is just hilarious, down to earth. I really appreciate how just like off the cuff he'll speak about anything. To the point where like I could see Matt like, hey, you probably shouldn't have said that. A couple times.
Most of the time.
but yeah, I mean the event itself, the people that were there, I mean, Otis, you spoke about it. I learned his story and what an amazing story he has. It was a really like I can't trade that for anything. Like that was worth every penny. Just being there in his presence, he would answer any question we asked, even when he shouldn't, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I would absolutely do it again.
Yeah, and you know what? The other thing as well, I think Matt, this was before you were kind of. You, let me get this straight, so just so that I can understand it. You're an artist rep or manager, or how's it work?
So I mean, I kind of am doing a little bit of everything in the space right now. So normally there's artist reps that literally just represent artists that just sell their original art and work with them at conventions. And then there's a separate, which is being an art dealer. There's guys that just buy and sell art, put them on their website. So I rep Simone Bianchi for the United States. His sister Gloria reps him for, his partner.
Gotcha.
She's amazing. She does everything in Europe and, across the pond there. And then I also rep another Italian artist named Simone Dimeo. He does some stuff he's big guy for DC right now, Batman and Robin, Brave and the Bold. But I'm a collector at heart, and buying and selling things is basically what my family's done our whole lives. And I didn't want to lose that either. So I have my own repping side of it. But then I also am, dealing fine art. And really my job is to try to, I just like finding pieces that go to perfect homes. That's like my thing. Selling art's great, money's cool. But like when if I have something that would go great in somebody else's collection, they're able to come to you and either buy it from you, or you could point them in the right direction. And then you see that post, or you see how they react, or where it goes on their wall, or whatever it is. It's a really cool feeling. And there's been a lot of people that have helped me to do that. So like I said, making money's great. It's definitely a part of it, but really making sure that, the art goes to amazing places. And, I'm also different when it comes to this. If somebody buys something from me and then they sell it, it is what it is. To be honest with you, that really doesn't bother me. But if somebody buys something from me and it goes to their personal collection, and I know, and believe me, you can tell when people buy things and it's going to go somewhere else, or you can tell when people buy things to cherish it. And I can really say, like, a lot of those people that came to that very first breakfast, that was a lot of their very first pieces of original art, let alone a piece of original art from, a historic guy that's been doing comics for 25, 30 years, painting his whole life, and then, dedicated 18 months of his life to painting 135 paintings to create a card set. And getting to see like those reactions when people lifted up the boxes for the first time and got to see what they had, that's, really was enjoyable. That's one of the main reasons why I do it, because Simone gets to enjoy it. The collectors get to enjoy it, and I get to enjoy it. So anybody that comes to something like that, it's a real win-win. It's pretty cool.
No, it's cool. I think you know this, you'll remember this, because Simone very kindly did a live Q&A in MMC, maybe 2019. And Fausto and I had sent him questions from people, and there were some questions that were kind of quite hot button at the time, because obviously people had views about how the cards were and how dark they were in some places and things like that, along with other more positive elements. I remember we did that Q&A, and he did it live in MMC, and he was so up for doing it.
Oh yeah,
really open to it. But at the end of it, they forgot to press the save thing on Facebook, so it didn't save it, so it's gone. So we very, very, very quickly did an episode where we recorded what we remembered of it. So, but it's not the same. Of course, it's not the same. And I remember afterwards, Gloria, bless her, she was so apologetic. She was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't really know what." So yeah, that was quite funny. I imagine you'll be shepherding them through those social media interactions from
yes, yeah,
which was good. I could talk about Masterpieces 2018 all day, but I'm sure these guys have got some questions. So let's just anyone want to fire something over?
Matt, how you doing, man? Good to see you again. Good to talk to you.
Again,
been a little while. So the MegaCon Orlando, kind of like Keith was saying, it's a one-off experience. You know, you remember probably your first Marvel card, your first big comic, all these different things, but getting a chance to go kind of behind the scenes there and meeting Simone, amazing. The energy the guy has, the passion he has, and the event was it was unbelievable. Where did you come up with the idea?
Being very honest with you, it's something that my family does for work so we own a beauty supply business, and we have these things like, these big hair shows where a representative person for a Redken or a Paul Mitchell or whatever comes in and they do a big show. And then after the big show is 250 people, it's a look and learn, there's music, everybody's, bumping and, going around having a blast. The following day, there's like an interactive, very hands-on, like 10 to 12 people for like the most serious people that want to come in and actually learn what they saw on stage from the master and be able to, really pick their brains. They, the person that's the hairdresser or the lead hairdresser from the brand actually walks around, helps you cut the mannequin, make sure the haircut's perfect. And I thought like, how do we do something like that where it's, not everybody can learn, but Simone did do recently, I went to Florence, which was awesome. He did a workshop, first time he's done a workshop in about 10 years, and watching him help other people and watching him explain what is natural in his mind that's just already happening, where he had to like take a step back. And, it was really cool. There was kids from 16 or 17 all the way to guys up to 60 in this class of the people that came. And so there was very different views, and how he explained everything to everyone was crazy. But I basically took that idea and I thought, New York Comic-Con's amazing. San Diego Comic-Con's amazing. But the bigger they've gotten, the one thing that you lose the most of is the experience. You lose the interaction. Of course, you can have that 5-minute where you're standing in front of the booth and they sign something, and then they tell you a little anecdote about whatever they signed, or, you get to ask your question. But to me, the best experiences are the ones that are, very intimate, and the ones where you can ask the questions that you want. And I'm very thankful that Simone has the personality he does, because maybe the events wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for him. But it's I basically took it from that, and I just thought, J. Scott Campbell had did one a couple years ago or prior to that, and he did it like away from the convention, but it was from he was doing like a big launch or like an anniversary of some Gen 13 stuff, so it was like a one-off type of deal. And I was like, why isn't this done like more often? I attended it. I went with one of my buddies. And you try to talk to J. Scott Campbell at a New York Comic-Con. I mean, his line's 2 hours long. Sure. He's just signing. This was a way to get original art from him. It was a way to guarantee, a half body figure, pencils, beautiful by Jay, you got to pick everything. So I kind of took a little bit, from my past business experiences and a couple things that I had been to maybe once or twice, throughout it, and just kind of push it together, and it's more about getting a group of like-minded people in the same room that are there for the common reason and just enjoying each other's company for 2 hours. That's literally, the art's really cool and amazing, and everybody's very happy with the art, but it's really cool from when people lift the box up, they see the art, they look at everybody else's art, They talk about the art for about 10 minutes, and then it's all questions about the art. It's, how did you do this? When did you paint this one? How long do they take? And getting to hear, insight, part of the process. It's just, it's a really cool experience. So I'm thankful that they've, taken off the way that they have, and definitely look forward to doing them more often. And but not too often, to be honest with you, because I don't want it to be something that doesn't become special. We do maybe 1 or 2 of them a year, and everybody that gets to come, they truly get to see something and speak to someone that you don't get if you just attend the convention or if you just pick up a commission. So it's pretty cool.
It's an awfully long
Yeah.
way for me to go.
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Original
Yeah, we're
experience.
gonna have to come and do one near you. Yeah.
Well,
we're
the
gonna
thing,
have
is,
to-
he's a lot closer to England.
Yeah.
I still wonder if, because when he did come on an episode of this about three and a bit years ago, with Gloria, and it was hilarious. In that he was basically, yeah, come and stay, come and visit us, come and visit us. I'm sure he says that to everyone.
Ian,
But
what's your biggest convention there? What's
well,
the...
I was going to say, my wife was seriously planning a trip to Italy around this, and
Yeah.
I had to say to her, we can't just show up on his doorstep unannounced.
The thing is, though, you could if you wanted
Well,
to.
yeah, we probably could. No, I probably wouldn't, because I'm far too English. Convention over here. There's a couple. I don't know what they're called, in all honesty. But there's a couple in London. Unless you're actively plugged into the kind of comic groups on Facebook and things like that, it's really difficult to know that they're happening. So I'm sure they probably do have a media budget to do some outdoor advertising.
I think the closest one that he's ever came to you would be, and he hasn't been there in a while, but it's Agulem. That's probably the closest one that he's come to.
Okay, what was the name? Sorry.
Agulem. I think it's in. Let me see here.
While you're looking that up,
France.
France.
Right.
That's why I haven't.
No, it's not really that close, but that's the closest.
No, exactly. I mean, there's a pretty big one in Leeds called Thought Bubble, which is more sort of
press. Yeah. I didn't know that was in Leeds, actually.
Yeah. No, that's in Leeds. But the London ones tend to be more kind of pop culture these days, as a lot of cons are, I guess.
Yep.
So you've got anime, you've got all the TV people, you've got the film people and things like that. So whereas Thought Bubble, and I think there's a number of other smaller cons like that in the north of England, which is actually has a really healthy like comic mart scene. There's loads in Leeds and Sheffield and Manchester and Liverpool. There doesn't seem to be as much in the south of the UK. So yeah, those still happen, and so the ones in the north of England tend to be more focused on, the artists and things like that. What's the one at Lake Como that
it's literally Lake Como Comic and Art Festival.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing posts about the one. I think it was just before COVID, where Bill Sienkiewicz came over, and he was there with Simone, I believe, and I just saw people losing their shit on comments when photos of them both went up, because that's quite a pairing, I think.
Yeah, it was really cool. Actually, they had a moment where Bill is an amazing guy. He's an absolutely insane talent, and very much like Simone, where just talk to anyone. Amazing personality. But the thing with Bill is he basically was at Lake Como the first year, and he was more out walking around talking to everybody he hadn't seen in years than at his table drawing. So it was like it turned into a like where's Bill type of like where's Waldo but where's Bill type of story. And there was about maybe one day, I would say about 45 minutes, Bill was just walking around and Simone was painting a Hulk. And Bill just stopped in his tracks, pulled up a chair, sat down, and Simone was painting and talking, and they just talked about the work, what they've been up to, what they've been doing. And then all of a sudden, I was behind the table working with him at the time, and I was, doing a video of the Hulk. So I was more paying attention to what I was doing. All of a sudden I looked up and there was probably like 30 collectors just standing around listening to them talk, listening to them chat while Simone was working. And then, Bill was like, all right, I'm going to go back. I've got some stuff I got to do. And then about 15 minutes later, Simone took a break. He went over, he pulled up a chair and sat down next to Bill at his table. And then he watched him paint and draw. And the same thing. Another group of people came around. It was just a really special experience. Bill's an amazing guy.
Yeah, definitely. What's the So in terms of what you've got coming up, I'm just keen to know is the plan for, so do you have a plan far ahead, like 12 months, 18 months, 2 years? Do you kind of map it out as to when Simone might make himself available? Because it's obviously a pretty big trip for him, coming
Yep.
over.
So we try to do it about a year in advance. But there's two major things that come into play when you're doing something like that. Number one is deadlines. Whatever projects he's working on, whatever things he has going on. I mean, we have a very great understanding that what we do is, great and very important, but published work always comes first. That's how he's earned his stripes. That's how he continues to make himself work in the business. Then also, I guess it's three things. Also, another thing very similar to that would be like the exhibitions that he does. I know it's far away, but if anybody ever has a chance to go to one, no matter where they are, they're one of the most amazing experiences ever. You're talking like 150 to 250 pieces of Simone's all throughout like an old Italian villa or a museum. Absolutely stunning. And then the third thing is, and most importantly, there you go, the amazing talent.
That's
An
the
amazing
one that he was just doing
Yeah,
when he came on the podcast.
that's
I think.
insane. The
Yeah,
art there
so
is
that
It's,
one
amazing.
was
it's so
in
good.
that one was in Città di Castello. I was not able to go to that one. That one was happened during COVID. And what was amazing about that one is a lot of people don't know this. That is the biggest gathering of a single artist's piece in the history of Italy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
any of the Michelangelo, and all these guys, I think it was like 258 or 268, I believe, pieces that were there. And what was amazing, I did not get to go to that one, but stunning. But Gloria was able to walk me through it via WhatsApp.
Yes.
And what was truly amazing about that was it was a culmination of new works that Simone had created, which he always does for exhibitions, but he had reached out to collectors from all throughout the world and all throughout his history. Yeah, beautiful. I'm a Frost and the canvas Phoenix.
Yeah, so it's got some of the masterpieces pieces.
And the reason being is because he reached out to people about some of his favorite pieces, some of the pieces he would really like, and it was amazing to work with him. Gloria did such an amazing job. Basically, you ship the pieces to them. They paid for the shipping, the insurance, brought everything in. You knew everything was in good hands. But then, to me, that adds more provenance to a piece of art that you own, where it goes and is featured in a major exhibition for, the piece is gone for you for 3 months or whatever it may be. But everybody that they asked, believe it or not, said yes. Nobody had a problem with it. And it was a real cool thing because it was a culmination of new works, old works, collections from Brazil, Croatia, Buffalo, Tonawanda, New York. there was things from all different, California, all over the world had reached their way back to Italy to, where they were first made to be on display. So very cool. And then the last thing is Simone's mood. If he wants to travel or not, if he wants to leave, that's the major thing. He's got 2 boys, an amazing wife. And it's like you said, it's a very long trip and it takes a lot out of him. So when he gets here, he wants to make it worthwhile, as far as he wants to stay for a little bit. He doesn't want to come in just for a Thursday to a Monday. Yeah. So we try to build some stuff in around that and make sure that it's, worth it for him to fly all the way over. But normally I say once he gets here, he's in a much better mood and then enjoys it. But it is, it's a long trip. It's a long trip.
Yeah, it is. Shout out, by the way, if she listens to this, to Gloria, because she hooked me up with a signed copy.
Oh, she's the best.
Did he post pictures on his Facebook or something? I could have sworn I saw like a video walk around.
He did a video. He did it in
it was
MMC.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It had like maybe a video wall also.
And that one was
was in the newest one. That's the one in Livorno. The one Amazing Talent was the one prior. The coolest part, in my opinion, about the Amazing Talent was they did a villains room, and when you walked into the room, it was completely black. So they put curtains up that you had to walk through. They had no lights except for red tube lights above each of the paintings.
Oh man!
And it was like Darth Vader, Darth Maul. Then you went over and it was the green light and it was above Doctor Doom. So it was a whole blacked out section that basically just had lights on the floor that guided you where to stay on the path was. But you were basically walking down like kind of like a snake way of all villain paintings that were all only illuminated by the light above them with whatever color it was that, you know, went with the villain, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
That they on this one is still on MMC. Simone did a walkthrough of
Yeah.
Matt with Gloria, and they literally took their phone. I mean, it was about 20-25 minutes long. And they were talking about it, and that's the one room they kind of started to go into, but then they stopped because they realized no one could see anything.
Yeah, it was too dark. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Can I just tell a little funny little story before one of the other guys jumps in?
Please.
Jake McManus, Retroverse UK, went to the exhibition, went to Italy specifically to see that exhibition that happened in that finished in November. And he got there and it was closed, and it was like he was literally there for the last few days because they had like a weather, like some like heavy rain or flooding or something like that. And he went specially for it, and he couldn't go.
I know that story, and I apologize again to Jake. Reached out, but one thing I will say about the Italian way is that when a hurdle's hitting something like that, it's not open. It could be a gust of wind. It could be, you know, it's too hot. It's too cold. You know, I can say this. They definitely will not be using that building again. The one that they did. So I'll give you an even funnier story. And not a lot of people know this one because this was a personal firsthand experience. I get to Italy last year, and Simone's like, listen, we're going to go. I said, hey, slow down a second. I want to go to Livorno. I want to see the exhibition. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go. Whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. So one day he's like, all right. He looks up on the thing. It's open until like 7:30. We get in the car at 5:30. Takes about an hour to get there. We get there at like 6:20. Now, I'm walking in to the exhibition with the guy who created every single piece in the exhibition. There's a couple people there right when we get to the front desk. It was like probably like a 20-year-old kid with like his father who was maybe in his 50s. Kid like bashes his father around the arms like, that's Simone Bianchi, you know, in Italian. Simone just walks right up to him, starts talking. I'm like, all right, you know, have fun. I'm going to go explore around. So you go up these winding steps, you get up, and there's all these different rooms. And like you said, there is a room where they had like a Van Gogh experience where you walked in and there was videos all around you. And like the Hulk was punching through the glass and the glass would shatter. A new piece would come up, like an immersive experience. Amazing. I'm up there for like 10 minutes and all of a sudden the lights in the room I'm in shut off. And then the lights in the other room on next to shut off. Simone comes up. He's like, oh, let's go back. I'm like, no, they shut the lights off over there. He's like, no, hold on. It's open till 7:30. It changed like 2 weeks prior because it was now into like the fall hours where they only were open until 6:30. The lady and Simone start not arguing, but speaking to each other loudly as Italians do. And the lady's basically like, I don't care who you are. I work until 6:30 and the exhibition's closed.
Wow.
And we left. Now we didn't leave peacefully. I can tell you that.
Wow.
But we ended up coming back and I got to go through it, but it's safe to say that lady wasn't back for a while. I don't even know if she's back at all now. But it was crazy. So I shared that story with Jake because it's very unfortunate, but yeah, whether it was weather or whatever it was, it's like a building that's owned by the city. Right. So if the city deems anything, is because it's a very historical building. So if the city deems anything, it's, you know, where something has to be done. That's like one of the buildings that always is closed because it's a part of the city building. So very interesting story. But yeah, I heard that story from Jake, and I know Jake, he's a great guy. And I hope, you know, this is a shame.
It just made me laugh. Of all the people, bless him. At least he didn't hop on a flight over the Atlantic to go, because that would have been
oh my god.
Actually, to be fair, it would have just been funnier.
So it would have made it. I was going to say, as long as it wasn't me, would have been more funny.
Yeah, exactly. Hands up, who owns original art by Simone on this? Cool. There's two people raising their hand. Josh, I could have sworn you did, and that you were very slow to raise your hand. Then I wasn't sure if you were like, do I admit to it? Don't I?
Yeah, no, I went to in Orlando. I got my Venom, and I did sell it. I had a fan who was really big Venom guy, and so for me, after that experience was all original art. It kind of changed everything from going after the rare serial numbered cards. And so I sold it. But amazing, absolutely amazing. Everything about it was phenomenal. The experience, and it worked out great.
Very good.
I had a question for I didn't mean to interrupt, but were you done?
You carry on there.
Okay. Well, Matt, I did a little research here the last few days, and it's kind of exciting. You're like a little bit of a success story because you did all this like organically through relationships and hard work and all that. Was there like a time where it just hit you and you're like, man, wow, I can do what I love and make good money, and be happy.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for the kind words. Second off, I'll tell you this, a lot of people have asked me like, how did you do this? I want to do that. I want to do this. And I'm like the worst person to ask because it's exactly what you said. I'm very thankful the way it just kind of happened. It just kept going. I didn't have like a playbook. Um, I just thought of things and tried to plan them out and did my best and presented them. And then it happened to go from there and go on and, build from there. So yeah. So my family, my grandfather started our family owned business. We're this next year, 2026 will be 80 years. So we've been doing this selling beauty supply products a long time. My dad's the president, his brother's the vice president. My brother's 10 years older than I am, is the director of operations. I'm the director of sales. And when your last name's Ditullio, when you're 16, you don't have any more summers and you go to work. That you go to the warehouse, that's what you do. And for me, that's work. What I'm doing now, this isn't work. This is like, I have so much fun. I mean, I work my regular job from 8:30 to 5, and then I come home and thankfully I have a very great fiance, but from 5:30 to 10, I'm looking up original art, looking up cards, scanning art, doing whatever, building I just launched my website earlier this month, built a website from scratch. Didn't know how to do that. Just did a lot of, work from there. I think, to be honest with you, after the first breakfast at New York Comic Con, and not the one that Keith attended, not because of the money we did or the numbers, but because how happy Simone was. I was like, okay, I think I can continue to do this because, at the end of the day, financially, everybody always wants more money, but like, everybody, Simone's good. He's okay. He's not a greedy guy. So I was like, maybe like it's too much pressure. He has to really, people don't realize sometimes he has to think about what he wants to say in Italian, process it, change it over to English, say it in English, and do that for every moment he's here, for every day, every time that he talks to someone nonstop. And sometimes by Sunday, there's times where somebody will say, oh, do you want to go out to dinner? And it's, an artist or whatever. And it's not disrespectful. Somebody's like, I just can't, I have to just not talk for a while. Like my brain is mush between painting and talking. So I kind of thought, man, maybe this will be too much, where it's like 12 people asking him all questions, this and that. It ended. We went over to we were supposed to go right back over to New York Comic Con. We went over to like a Texas barbecue in New York City, like one of the ones, it's like a barbecue chain. And Simone thought it was like the greatest barbecue of all time. So I have really barbecue in Italy. And I got one of those for me to celebrate. I got one of those insane like goblet fishbowl drinks with like the floating shop thing, like it's like a slushy. And he was like, I'll take one too. Let's celebrate. That was amazing. Like, when are we going to do the next one? And I think right there, I kind of had a moment like, all right, I could continue to do this. And like, all the lead up, calling the people don't realize too, you got to call the hotel, you got to book the room. Some of the hotels now, when they find out what you're doing, I have to get insurance because of the amount of the value of the pieces that are in there. I have to pay for the staff member for the hotel. So all that stuff get correlating. Then it goes to the collector's end. What does the customer want? Well, they want Spider-Man, but his mask half torn off. And I got a job. I had, 3 or 4 Excel spreadsheets going on. And after that, when it was all done, I was like, all the work was worth it. Everything was good. And, I want to continue to do this and keep building. And that's kind of what I've been able to do since then.
Yeah. And his energy it makes the experience. You have an idea from what you've seen before, But until you sit down and talk to the guy, it's his energy is amazing. He's passionate about what he does, and the way he can explain to somebody who doesn't have a background in art about some of the images and things that he's seen in his life and experience, and then brings that over to the paintings, was mind blowing. And some of the time scales that he gave us on how long some of those paintings took to put together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think some people realize, I won't go deep down the rabbit hole here, but like, the whether it's Marvel, DC, Upper Deck, they're not the greatest people to work with. There's editors that are amazing. There's some people that are great, but some of the time constraints that not just Simone, but any artist are put under, like, hey, we need this cover done by Friday and it's Wednesday. Like they don't have lives or they don't have anything that's going on or scheduled things. And it's like like you guys would all think, and I thought this prior, you think you get an email from Marvel that's like, okay, we are relaunching Gambit. The Raging, it's going to be Raging Cajun #1. We have so and so doing the cover A, we have so and so doing the cover B. We want you to do the 1 in 50 variant. You can either have Gambit with staff with cards, Gambit in action, whatever. The email is literally Gambit cover. That's it.
No context.
Create it. So then they'll create it and they send it over, and then the editors are like, yeah, but could you move the cards, or could you add a staff, or could you do this? And then it's like, again, something that's already taken the hours put in, and has to be redone. So it's a very different process from what people think. And it was really eye-opening for me. And in some cases, I think, especially in Simone's, they send that on purpose because they know what's going to come back is what he's going to do anyway. They know it's going to be the best of whatever, they could give him guidelines. In all honesty, he's going to pretty much do what he wants because it's going to turn out better than the people asking anyway. Yeah. But it is a very difficult process, and people think it's this smooth, well-oiled, machine. It's not. It's almost the exact opposite. In some of the ways that these artists get put into binds, or they have to stop what they're doing. I want to be very clear. Almost every artist I've ever talked to is happy to be a Marvel artist or a DC artist or work on this, but they've almost gotten used to this, like, cancel everything, got to finish this work, got to hit a deadline type of lifestyle, because that's the way the industry is right now. So it's crazy.
I almost wonder if they do that on purpose, right? They leave it up to the creative person's, creativity or interpretation of what they think.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to put them in a box. But
no, and
at the same time, it's got to be
sometimes yes, and then other times it's like, yeah, but then change this, this, and this. And it's like, well, then why didn't you just tell me you wanted that?
Yeah,
find a little bit of communication.
But, I mean, of all people, I mean, there's probably, if I was going to drop, not that I've got $5,000 to drop on a commission. Okay, I'm just putting that number out there. I've no idea how much commissions cost. But if I was going to give someone $5,000 and be like, okay, this is what I want. The list of what I want would probably be down to 2 words when it's artists like Simone, because and Tony Perner's I put in that camp as well. If I say to Tony Perner, draw Black Cat, just do your thing. I'll be the same with Simone. I'll be just like, just do your thing, And I think that's because you realize that's going to be the best outcome.
Oh yeah. Don't put any handcuffs on the, let them go.
I think it's a very hard thing to do when you're first getting into collecting, but as you grow further into it, a piece of advice that I would give anybody that's getting a commission from their favorite artist or trying to get one, because I've been on both sides of the table. I've been the collector trying to get the commissions, and I've been with the artist who's taking the commissions. And one piece of advice I would always give is that give the artist their freedom to do what they see best with, because that means you're either going to get, number one, it means they're more likely to take the commission in most cases. Number two is it means you're going to get something extremely well done because it's coming from their brain. So they want it to be the best version of what they want. Right. So when people come up, and I've seen this, it actually just happened to me at MegaCon, and it is what it is. This guy came up and he was like, I'll go with a different. I want Spider-Man fighting Venom, holding on top of the Daily Bugle with his left hand, right hand's got Venom in it, but the symbiote's coming up. And it was done. And, it got to be where it was. But the artist said to me, well, there's not really much freedom for me here to do anything else that I want to do. So I'm just going to give him what he wants. And not that he didn't put any less effort into it or whatever it was, but he didn't feel comfortable as the art adding something because this person was so laser focused on what they wanted that he didn't want to add anything else or take because he didn't want to disappoint the client. So it's a fine line of where do you go from saying, like you said, I very honestly, I tell Simone all the time, Black Cat, Black Bolt, Wolverine. And then he just does it from there. Simone to me, I'm like, hey man, draw me a Scarlet Witch. He draws her the most beautiful, I just have gotten to that point, but I've also seen artists say like, that's too much. I don't want to do that. Like they have zero interest of, doing it. For example, there's a guy named Gary Frank, phenomenal artist, DC artist, Batman, very, very, very beautiful Batman artist. He actually lives in Lucca, the same city that Simone lives in. And he actually charges, so he'll do a Batman commission for, let's say, I'm just using numbers here, 1,000. Batman hunched over on Gargoyle is 2,500. He has drawn so many goddamn Batman on gargoyles that he doubles the price of it because he can't stand drawing it anymore. And guess what? People run up and they give him $2,500 for Batman on gargoyle because it's the same thing that everybody wants all the time. And hey, you collect how you want to collect, do whatever you want to do. But Gary got to the point where he wasn't enjoying drawing them because it was so repetitive of Batman on gargoyle, Batman. So he just upped the price on that. So now somebody comes up and is like, oh, could you do Robin? And you should see it. I mean, it's like stunning. It's like it's got background, it's got details. And Batman on Gargoyle is just the hunched over gargoyle with Batman on top of it with the lightning bolt behind it, lighting it up. And it's not that it's not beautiful. It's just that there's only so many ways to draw the same thing, and he's hit that limit throughout his career. So I always tell people you can have a beautiful idea and try to convey that, but also try to give the artist a little bit of freedom to do what they want, because in that case, then you're going to get the best bang for your buck. They're going to take something that they've had in their mind and they want to translate to the paper. It's going to turn out the best if you're able to do that.
Matt, is there a size that's a common that you'd recommend to somebody that hasn't commissioned an art, a piece before? Is there like a size that you don't want to go too small?
Yeah. So the standard sizes are 9x12. So that's, 8.5 by 11 is a blank cover. So 9x12 is normally like a headshot, I would say, or like a bust. Then a full figure size, 11 by 17. And then that's standard. And then anything oversized, you start working into, you'll get into more pricey, is 16 by 20 and 18 by 24. Those are like kind of the normal size ranges. So 8.5 by 11, 9 by 12, 11 by 17. Sometimes you get 11 by 14. Like for example, Peach Momoko, all of her covers and all of her work is done on 11 by 14 because that's the standard Japanese size rather than 11 by 17. We work more rectangular. They work more square. I mean, think of like one of our books versus like a manga style book. It's still a rectangle, but it's a little bit more square. And that has to do with, like, as something Ian mentioned earlier, where when the images are manipulated, whether they're, lightened, darkened, printed, you want to try to get the closest you can to what the page is going to look like when it's shrunk down in that shape to be in a book. So, 11 by 14 is very close to what 8.5 by 11 is. So you're not going to get a lot of condensing with the images. But yeah, I think it's just, normal is 9 by 12, 11 by 17, 16 by 20, and then 18 by 24.
Okay.
Keith.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to commissions and how you should work with some of these artists. Like when I had my opportunities with Simone, and Matt and I have worked together 3 times now, I was very non-specific. I was like, hey, make sure she's got claws. Hey, make sure there's fire. Hey, make sure it's this. And that's it. Like one word. And you just kind of let the artist go wild. And for me also, when I do a commission, I don't want to be too specific because I like the surprise also. I like to see what the artist came up with. I want that mad scientist Simone's gears turning, and I want to figure it out, boom, right when I open it. To the point where I've been mad at Matt because he's shown me pictures of it before it arrived at my house. And I'm like, no, why'd you do that?
My bad.
And like I see,
you're like the opposite of what everybody else wants. Normally, it's like, I saw one's done. Where's my photo? So then I just start rifling them off, and I always forget Keith doesn't want him. I'm like trying to redact the message prior.
Yep. And I see the little ting, and I'm from Matt. And I'm like, oh no, it's done. I'm like, I don't want to see it yet. Damn it. and you just stand there for a minute, and then finally you open it. Oh God! And you close it, and you put it down. But yeah, I mean, you really want to just let them run wild. I think that's when you get the best results. So that's just my experience.
It's interesting. I've got a very it's bizarre. I've got one thing that I want to do with Black Cat, and I'm not sure if I want it to be a commission or I've got 5 blank Black Cat issue 1 sketch covers. They're buying them at the time, and they're still sealed. They're still there, ready to go. And I'm sooner or later I'm going to have the money to get them out there to people. But I don't know if I want it on the blank sketch covers or if I want it as a separate thing. But I've got something very specific in mind that I'm not going to say now. I'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's Black Cat, and then it's something else as well. But that's it. And I'm kind of slightly worried that's going to be too much of a direction thing. Do you see what I mean? This is why I want to bounce it off you afterwards. But Keith, did you recently get a sketch card? We've talked about this on the chat. Is that something that you are wanting to show in your?
I did. This was it's funny. There's a backstory behind this. It was kind of a mess up. We did a pivot, and I couldn't be more happy about it. It is X23, of course. So this will be the first time I show it, and it blew my mind.
I'm just gonna make you big on the frame. So keep it
so
there.
That's our cover and our back, right?
Holy.
Oh, wow.
Holy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I love them both.
Yep.
I love how we made the water connect.
It's the earth colors also. It's the fact that he connected the backgrounds. Yeah, I mean, it was I couldn't have been happier with this. So thank you, Matt, and thank you, Simone, for this.
Oh, please.
That's
what I love about that is that there's been no they're separate pieces.
Right.
Rather than something that's tried to cross that kind of no man's land in the middle.
Correct.
Is that the moon in the background there?
Yeah, there's a moon on both sides there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's typical Simone mad genius there. Wow. Show us the back again.
Sure.
Yeah, that's too cool.
It's for me. I'm sure you've heard this before, Matt. It's the signature.
Yes,
it's a piece in and of itself.
The problem is he forgets to sign everything.
Remember you putting him up on that on the Instagram live. That was hilarious. That was. Is that something he often does?
All the time.
Okay.
He just that's always the last thing he does. And he's very interesting to watch work in the studio. We have a running joke that like nothing's ever finished. It could be done and published. It's never finished. So he actually has like a quad fold mirror. So, a mirror that would be like this and then opens up and it's on hinges. And there's an easel, and then he puts the painting on the easel, and then he has on the chair in front of the easel a quad fold mirror. So when he's walking around coming into the studio, he can, coming into the studio from where he was, he can see the piece from all different angles, from reverse, from different aspects, not just from head on, or he can be coming from a side and he'll see the reflection of the piece in this side of the, quad fold mirror. And all of a sudden he'll just, be drumming or painting or whatever. And then he'll just stop as he's walking. He'll stop what he's doing, picks up the piece, puts it back on the drawing table or the easel and, kind of goes back at it. And, that happens 3 or 4 times before it's actually done. And then he'll move on to something else and just forget to sign it because his brain is just moving to the next piece or to whatever's going. So, one of my main jobs is to always make sure, like I haven't actually shown anyone this either. It's not nearly as nice as Keith's, but I'm not a big sketch card guy, but I did get this one done for me.
Oh, man.
That's
kidding?
That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
But
wow.
he didn't do the front or side.
Now it makes it easier to frame, I guess.
So
Matt,
he
I've
was
seen
like-
that a couple times. Also, he's done a whole front and just on the back, it's either blank or just his signature.
Yeah.
Have you told him before that, hey, that's more canvas there, buddy? Like, how
No.
come you're not using it all?
Nope. I don't tell him what to do at all.
Okay.
I have a very good relationship to this point where we've established ground rules that I ask once. or I tell him once, and then he tells me yes or no. And then if I'm really passionate about it, I tell him why, yeah, that you should do this, or why I don't think you should do this, or whatever it may be. And if he says yes, then he knows that it's really important to me because I brought it up a second time. If he says no, I know it's just something he won't do. You know, like for example, I've been trying to get him to do remarks for like the 4 years we've been working together. And it's a very hot topic issue. Everybody in the comic industry is doing remarks. They're becoming more and more collected as the price of original art goes up. And I think probably at like MegaCon, this is not a joke, we probably had over 50 requests for remarks and turned down every single one of them. And when somebody asks, he looks at me and he, you know, directs them over to me. And I have to tell them no. And from a financial standpoint, you would tell them all the time, like, we need to make little Bianchi babies. And that's where they start, is like with a remark, because that's the beginning, right? His follow-up is, yes, I understand, but hear me out. When I go from painting on an 18 by 24 board that I can paint the smallest details and really enjoy how I'm laying things down, panel by panel, stroke by stroke, tile by tile, and then somebody comes up and is like, hey, draw me something the size of a quarter, that's not a good representation of my art. That's not a representation of who I am or my skills. And I understand that there are people out there that that's what they can afford. And I get that. And I'm not trying to be in any way, shape, or form, you know, disrespectful. But when I see stuff like that from me out there, I know it's like a fraction of what I can do. And I don't want artwork out there that's a fraction of what I can do. And, you know, most people are very understanding with that. But we've, you know, we were just talking after the IG yesterday, and I brought up remarks, and he was like, all right, well, I'll do them for like $400 or $500. So he wants to make them like so. And I'm like, well, then we're not going to do them because that's ridiculous. You know, we're not going to do that. But that's just his thought process. So to me, I know we could sell a ton of remarks. We could do a CGC op and they asked us since his last signing, would you be open for coming back and doing sketches or remarks? The answer is no, because that's just not his style. It's not what he wants to do.
To be honest, his remark is his signature.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
It's one of the most gorgeous signatures that you'll find from an artist. That's a remark to me.
When 2018 came out, my original goal was to go for a gold 6 set, because I was just absolutely smitten with the autograph. And no disrespect. I mean, Joe, just go. Obviously, it's a very recognizable signature, and it's a beautiful signature, but it's not Bianchi. Signature.
No.
And you know, in a similar way with Dave Palumbo, I love Dave. I love him dearly, but his signature doesn't kind of hit that same spot for me. In fact, I don't think anyone's does really, apart from maybe there's very few artists whose signature for me is a draw in itself, and I think Simone's probably one of them. But
Matt, you could probably slide that card in a little stack of stuff to have him sign. Just kind of sneak it in there and just, you know, he'd go through it.
He's going to
even know what it was.
We're doing Fan Expo Toronto in August, so he's coming back and he's going to stay with me because I live very close to Toronto. So he's gonna end up doing that for me. I also have one other thing that I'm really going to push to try to have him do. The answer is probably going to be no, but I think it would be awesome. But he doesn't even know it yet, and he's staying with me, so I have a little bit more power over him at this point to try to get it.
Fair enough.
I'll give you guys this, you know, a little sneak peek for anybody that watches. So one of the things I'm going to be working on is I want to have him so these came out, and I'm going to essentially like sand off a 4x4 square and lay down a white paint and try to get him to do like a bust on one of each of the skateboards. So they would literally be one of one. He would do the Iron Man on Iron Man, Captain America on Captain America, Black Panther on Black Panther, sign them all one of one. But like these have become increasingly more collectible. At a lot of shows lately, I've seen a lot more people coming up with Marvel skateboard decks, you know, pieces with original art on them. It's another way to collect. And, you know, one thing that I'm here to do is I like to see everything in every way that everybody collects. And the skateboard decks and signatures, original art on them have become massive in probably the last like year and a half. So I got some work to do to sand him down and lay down like a white base so he can, you know, go over the top. But essentially, it's just the same wood that he would paint on when he's doing something on like a canvas board. So I've just got to convince him to be able to do 4 or 5 of them when he's here, because I've got 4 or 5 of the boards. But we'll see if he does.
That's a killer idea.
That's an awesome idea.
I'd
How
love
about shoes?
Yeah.
He won't do shoes. I've tried.
Yeah.
Now, Simone DiMeo, will do shoes, and he's, like a sneakerhead. And I have a pair of like the Into the Spider-Verses, and when he comes and stays, I'm gonna have him do on the toes of Miles and a Spider-Man, and kind of like prop them up facing towards each other. But yeah, like that's what I'm saying, is that the community's evolving, whether it's the card community, the comic community, but the collecting community is evolving. And some of the quote unquote purists may not love it. I understand that, but it is happening. It's changing. And the way people are choosing to spend their money, or what they're choosing to put original art on, it's changing. There's no two ways about it. I've seen people even come up. This one blew me away. I'm just not a digital art guy. It has its spot. I like to hold physically what I have.
Yep.
I had a guy come up to one of my artists, Simone Bianchi at MegaCon, and he said, "Hey, could you like do this drawing for me?" I handed him his iPad. Like, he wanted him to do it on like Procreate and do it all, and then that was it. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that, because once that image is done, now you can print it, you can make a poster, you can use it for your website, you can do that. Like, but I'd never had anybody come up and ask for a commission to be done on an iPad. I didn't, that was something I hadn't heard before, something I kind of had to think about, talk with my artist too, to, kind of go forward with. But things are changing, and to be able to do some cool stuff, and to be able to kind of evolve and keep moving forward, and not just keep doing the, one individual 11 by 17 full figure commission, but to offer some different options in some different ways. I think it's cool. And it also shows that the artists are remaining relevant. They want to change, and they want to give, their
Evolve
fans
with
the
the
art
hobby.
on the surface or the medium that they're looking for. So, we'll see how it goes. Maybe he says absolutely not, and then I just have him sign the boards, and I'll do something cool with them that way. But I think, you have to try to be unique now. You have to try to have a different version and in different things of what people are looking for. So I saw a guy at MegaCon. He had this really cool Wolverine skateboard. It had the claw up. The claws were all, like holographic.
Yeah.
He had Jim Lee. He had Frank Miller. He had Chris Claremont. He came over to get Simone, Jeff Loeb. This thing probably had 50, 60 signatures. And in today's day and age, you're talking, that's at least $3,000 in signatures with some of those guys that I named. Miller's a couple hundred bucks now. Chris Claremont's expensive. I think he had John Romita Jr. on there, so he had, this board had been going for a while, and it was just something different. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I've got a couple spare wakeboards I could send to, no problem. I'll get them up there.
If he does skateboards, we'll see how it goes, but who knows?
Yeah, very cool.
Indeed. So you've kind of touched on this, so it's a good opportunity to go there. I've no massive familiarity with the original art kind of community, how it's been, the kind of traditional, I've got my air quotes up here, traditional model of it, and how it's going. But there's talk of the evolution, and one thing that's apparent, certainly when it comes over to the crossover with Marvel cards, is that there seems to be an awful lot more interest in the original art in the last couple of years. That's definitely been very much more noticeable. I don't think I'm wrong by saying the last couple of years. I think the awareness of it has been slightly longer. Certainly, I've seen a lot of people sharing it and talking about it in the MMC and MCCW, but I don't know enough to know whether or not that's just that chatter appearing in that group and it was happening somewhere else, or whether this is genuinely a build in appreciation. But certainly, with the most recent set, and the way the original art came out with that, and the interest in Dave Palumbo's work, which is very much a crossover from Magic the Gathering, where do you see that kind of build of awareness and artists going with people like yourselves to go with someone who will represent them, and that kind of trend, if you like, is that likely to be something that carries on? Is it the tip of the iceberg? Is more of it happening than I'm seeing? I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Sorry, there's loads of questions there.
It's a great question. I think that from when I've been in it in 2018, which is, a fraction of how long people have been collecting Marvel cards, I definitely think there's been a surgence in, focusing on the original art. I don't think, there's always going to be, like I said, everybody collects differently, and there's always going to be the guys that are the insert collectors, or the holographic collectors, or the base collectors, or the, what if collectors, however they collect. But I think, I can only speak for myself. I can't really speak for the collecting community, but the end goal for me is there's only one of the painting, and there's only even one of one card. The one of one card doesn't exist without the painting. So if you want to climb all the way to the apex of that individual character or whatever it is, to me, it's the painting. And I think what I've realized in my time, because I always try to take a step back. It's very hard to understand something when you're really in it. When you're like, nose deep, you're not looking up. It's hard to understand maybe what's going on around you. So when I try to take a step back and, really have like a macro view of what's going on, I think there's been a huge influx of like elitist, completist collectors. People that once they get started, they want it all. They want from top to bottom. It kind of used to be just like, hey, I had some things in a binder. Yep, I completed the binder. I think naturally as humans, what makes us great is we always strive for more. But it's also sometimes what holds us back in some cases. So you get the binder done and you're like, all right, but what's next? Even though you've been trying to get the binder done for 6 months. It's like, okay, well, now I did that. What's my next move? All right, now I want the autographs of my favorite characters, the backslash of 10s, the silver spectrums. All right, now I got one of those. Now I need a plate. So now you get like the rainbow. And then it's like, well, the only thing I have left from the rainbow is the original art. So, or people I've seen have started reverse. They buy the original art and then they say, this is my guy or my girl, and I'm going to work my way down. I need a plate. I need a base. I needed this. So I think for me, collecting as the hobby has really just grown. It's brought sports card collectors in, wrestling card collectors, action figure collectors, I've even, poster collectors, all these guys, because guys like Simone, guys like Eddie Granoff, they're crossing over into multiple fields. They're doing cards, they're doing tool posters, they're doing Smashing Pumpkin posters, they're doing Marvel covers, they're doing movie posters. So just the wide openness of the collecting community is really, I think, had just an influx of people that just want more. They want to have the apex of whatever they are collecting. And in many cases, that's the original art. So I don't think people are essentially moving away from cards. I think they're being more selective. I don't think people are moving away from comic books. I think they're being more selective with the intention of buying a piece of original art. Because let's face it, if you didn't fill the binder, you probably could have bought the painting. Or if you didn't, there's definitely different ways to look at it. So I don't know how or why, to be honest. If I did, I'd be doing, probably writing something for Forbes or something. But the trend to me just seems that there's become a lot more elitist collectors, and there's become a lot more people that are laser like focused on building that rainbow that includes the original art.
Yeah. With the revenue and the income to back it up as well,
Yeah, of course.
These guys,
I mean,
some of these guys in the hobby now.
There's guys that are coming in now that are, did any of you? Well, no, nobody here was it. Anybody here? I'll give you a quick anecdote about what happened at OAX. So I was at OAX, first inaugural one, amazing convention. Got to meet Dan Dos Santos. Got to meet a lot of the Marvel guys.
First one of those that's ever happened.
First one.
Yes. Oh, okay, right, okay.
And I was very lucky that Bill from Comic Art Fans, shout out to Comic Art Fans, amazing. If you don't have an account, go make one. You can just see some amazing art. You'll see pieces on there that you've never seen in your whole life. You're like, I never knew where that was. Now you'll find it. They basically wanted to host something that, like you were saying, Ian, when you go to these big conventions, there's the anime section. By the way, I love anime. There's the pillow section, the pop section, they just wanted it just
the pillow
original
section.
None of the.
What are you going to?
Believe me. MegaCon had a whole section. Of Studio Ghibli body pillows. Dead serious.
Really?
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Imagine trying to get back on the plane with that. But yeah, okay.
Mystery boxes. There's a whole aisle. Just basically you go down, buy this to get the chance of winning this book, and it's like 1 in 300, and they're just selling out crap. But it is what it is. They asked Simone to do the original, the first ever inaugural poster, and Simone loves to draw Weapon X, so they decided to make Weapon OAX, and it was the poster that everybody signed, which was amazing. And part of the deal was he created the poster and it went to auction. And, this is where maybe people don't understand the back end of it is, proceeds of it went to OAX, but another proceed of it went to the Heroes Initiative, which helps comic book artists who are out of the industry that weren't taken care of properly when they were working. They didn't have the benefits. It really helps them go forward, and it's something I'm super passionate about, because sometimes if you look back at the way these guys were treated or what was done to them with their original, it is insane. And these guys are like help build what we collect today. So I'm very big. I donate every year to the Heroes Initiative. Now, very honestly, I could have just said, I want to buy the poster before it goes to auction and I'll just give it to you at this. And they said, no, well, they said you can do that. I said, no, let's have it go to auction, because if it goes way up, it goes way up and it makes more money for you guys and it makes more money for the Heroes Initiative. And I want you guys to come back. I think we all know Steve Miami from Steve Warbell. So he was there. I have a great relationship with Steve. He's an amazing guy. And the poster comes up at the night for the auction. And I think everybody in the room knew the two guys that were going to be going after the poster were me and Steve. And, quite frankly, I had a set budget for it and Steve beat me. He just, to be quite honest, he has more liquid money than I have. But it was an amazing thing for the community to see, of two guys that are very passionate about what they collect, that wanted to own something. And all of a sudden, because it was alphabetical, so the Bianchi one was very early, like more gavels started going up. People wanted to be a part of this auction thing because it was for a good cause. It was to help the convention come back on. And I lost and I was still happy, because I can't, you have to, I think one of the biggest things I always try to tell people is you have to set limits for yourself. You got to understand not every piece that is out there is for you. If you're a Black Bolt guy or a Black Cat guy or an X23 guy, there's so many pieces out there where if you go look, you'd want to buy them all. You have to try to be focused and you have to try to understand that, not every one of them can be mine, because then you're going to set yourself up for letdowns or for failures. But Steve was a guy who, prior to Marvel Masterpiece 2018, he didn't even know that Marvel Masterpieces were around. And he came in and brought in some amazing collectors, some new aspects, some new thought processes, some new ways of collecting that I wasn't aware of. The reason why Steve loves collecting what he collects, a lot of people know, he worked at a comic book shop and he used to see the cards when he was a kid. And he didn't have the money to buy them then. So now he does, and that makes him happy. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If you work hard and you have expendable income and you want to invest it, because I always say you don't buy it, you invest when you're buying original art or high-end cards, then that's what you do. Go ahead and go for it. But it was really cool. Like I said, I lost and I was happy because it was two people that were very passionate about something, that wanted a piece that I was ready to go up to my budget, and I knew he had more budget than me, but I wasn't going to go down without a fight. I was going to try.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Make him just have a bead of sweat. Possibly.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, he wasn't sweating, but I was.
Yeah,
and it was cool. He came right up to me after. Well, it was like $14 beers because you're in Orlando at like a convention center. And I was like, Steve, I just saved a bunch of money. Let me buy you a beer. We ended up talking, and we took a picture with the piece. I ended up getting the prelim, so I have the prelim. He has the painting. It was cool.
Prelims. Listen, I've got one prelim, and that's the Dave Palumbo one.
Oh.
And I'm just like, well, actually, no, it's the transfer piece. Actually, not the
Oh, okay. Yep.
And I do also have the prelim. Sorry, I have the transfer and I have the prelim, and they're small. I don't have wall space. I'm in England. You've been here. Our houses are tiny, and even if I do, there's a window there, and I need to probably get some proper like blackout stuff on it. So if I did put something up on the wall, I'd be scared shitless of it getting bleached over time. So.
That's why I think sketch cards are really cool. They're an amazing way to have original art on something that's easy to store. You can store a lot of them in cases. You can keep them together. Before I got into the Marvel Masterpiece community or group in the card community, I really never thought of having an artist draw anything on a card. It never, the smallest thing I would have ever thought was a blank comic book, because that's how I started with my original art. And then I was like, wow, these are really cool. And then I remember seeing puzzle piece sketches for the first time. I'm like, wait a second, somebody took 4 cards and made them a square and drew the whole thing. So it was just, it was really cool for me to see all that stuff for the first time, which now I kind of think is like common. But it's really cool. I didn't know anything about Marvel what is it, Premiere, Keith, the ones with the booklets, like I saw you posted the tins. Like, I didn't realize, because I'd only ever bought Marvel Masterpiece when they first released after that, that like it was only that in the tin. That was it. There was no other like cards or anything. I was like, wow, this is like a unique way to launch something. So it showed me a lot of, you know, like different ways to collect and different ways, you know, people are building their own versions of the perfect collection. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. How were you, as soon as you brought up sketch cards, how is your, because when you might remember I did this, went back in, because I was keen, I had more time on my hands. Back when Masterpieces 2018 came out, I did this thing where obviously EPAC, and I think people pretty much guessed that EPAC was going to be about 50-50 of the release, you know, and I think for that set that was probably right, and there was some far brainier people than me crunch some numbers, and it was pretty accurate. So I did this thing where I asked everyone in the group how many physical boxes they'd broken, to try and figure out what percentage of physical product MMC members had bought, and it was up there. You know, I'd say the people in MMC probably bought at least 20% of the physical product that had come out.
We bought a lot. I know I bought a lot. I know.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say the number, but I've got the spreadsheet up on my screen, and I know how many boxes you put yourself down for. And I think at the time you told me not to tell anyone, so I didn't. And I remember that. But
and I think that number's increased too.
I expect it probably has over these. So obviously you would have broken a lot of those boxes. So I've got a real itch. You'd have broken a lot of those boxes, and that would have been one sketch a box at that time. So you would have seen an awful lot of different types of sketches. So what's your I mean, was that your first experience of seeing them when you were breaking those boxes?
Yep.
And what's your kind of journey and your relationship been with sketch cards since then? Do you collect them in any way other than the artist?
I don't really. I know I don't collect them anymore. I'm just I like big art, and I cannot lie. So I just that's just the way I go. 18 by 24 is.
I might have to use that as the
episode name.
That's the episode title, right?
You can have.
Oh yeah.
You know, I just think if I have a lot of wall space. I designed my house that way when I put the addition on. I have 2 sliding glass doors that I built a cathedral ceiling of that have, you know, multiple wall space above each of them on each side, specifically for that. You know, because I really enjoy looking at paintings. That's like whenever I travel anywhere, I try to go to an art museum. I try to see a sculpture or something, you know, of note, because I think I'm normally pretty good at most things, and I try to draw all the time, and I'm so bad at it. I try to paint. I did a paint night the other day. By the way, I was, you know, blasted off like 20 high noons, but what the painting turned out to be was just horrendous. So I mean, like, I really appreciate, you know, the art, and I feel like, you know, there's portfolio collectors that just buy things, slide them in a portfolio, and they you know, are kind of just there. I know guys that are portfolio collectors that you know, bring out their portfolio once a month and go through them. I just like to have my stuff on the wall. Costs a lot more money because you got to get everything framed and have the proper glass, but to me, it's worth it. And it's something that, you know, as I walk through the door, you know, the doorways of my house each day, they make me happy. So that's kind of how I do it. But back to the sketch card thing is my relationship with sketch cards is, I don't know. They're very odd to me, to be honest. I'm a straight shooter. Yeah. Keith knows me, Josh knows me, and we know each other a little bit. Wesley, Jason, I don't mean to offend anybody when I say, but I'm just going to say my piece here. There's people that are in these that shouldn't be in them. They're brutal. Like, they're not good artists. I don't know what else to say. And when you're spending that amount of money on a box of cards, there should be some form of qualifications that have to be hit for you to be inputted. Now I'm going to give you another aspect of it. Simone was upset at some of the levels of sketch cards that were next to his cards. He's like, I put 18 months of my entire life into this. My blood, sweat, and tears of every painting, and this guy gets to put a stick figure in there. Like, that's not okay. Like, he, you know what I said earlier about the perception of his artwork. Why would something like that be allowed to be next to his artwork, where he's had to do 30 years of hard work in grinding in the comic industry to get to do a set like this? And then they give guys 12 sketch cards that rush 4 of them, and the other 6 they keep, and they just get thrown in there. So for me, not a big sketch card guy. Now, a couple guys off the top of my mind, like I can remember, like Charlie Cody, I think is one of his names. Yeah, insane. Ash, insane. There, I want to say there's levels to this with everything.
Yeah.
But Lydia Lee, I mean, there are some that are go without saying, but as you can tell, those are the three that pop into my mind because their artwork is great. I'm not saying there's not a lot of other great artists out there. I've seen guys that are in the group starting to do art, and they're better than some of them that are in the set. They are, hands down. Like there's no two ways about it. So when you get that hit of a sketch card, I think probably no better feeling. Maybe getting a 1 of 1 or like an SSA 10 auto. But when you open it up and you get that like cartoony colored pencil BS, to me, I was like, I had zero interest in sketch cards. That's pretty still my interest. I know it's a big topic and everybody goes crazy. I would rather take the sketch card and get it done by the artist that I want to go with my collection. And that's frowned upon because it's not pack pulled or set pulled or whatever. But I feel like there has to be a barometer. There has to be a base level that Upper Deck has to control to let these sketch cards get into the packs. Like they've let it get to a point where it's just too Wild West. It's too much. Like
it is.
There's got to be some form of quality control that guys like Palumbo, Fred Ian, Dan Dos Santos, Juiceco that are like doing just incredible work. And then I'm not saying some of these guys aren't putting their heart and soul into it, by the way. There is just levels to this. It's just like a black and white thing. It has nothing to do with how good they are as a person, how kind they are. I'm not taking a shot at anybody's character by any means, but there has to be some form of a litmus test to get into these, in my opinion. So sketch cards, I've really taken a step back from, and I've tried to focus on finding, and by the way, another thing that a lot of people don't understand is like the printed list for sketch cards. Like if Simone emailed Upper Deck, and I don't know what the next set coming out is, something, I don't know, and said, I want to be a part of that set as far as sketch cards, they'll mail him the sketch cards. So he has them, but if he doesn't do it because he has a comic cover or a deadline or whatever, he still has the blanks. So he's not officially on the set list, but those blanks came from Upper Deck right to his address.
Right.
People don't understand that. People don't want to view that this blank, because his name is not on this list, isn't a real blank from Upper Deck or whatever it is. But like I said earlier, the cog behind that makes everything go is very confusing.
Yeah.
And it's not what everyone thinks. So when people have said to me, well, that's a fake sketch card, I'm like, you're absolutely insane. Yeah. You have no idea what you're talking about. You think you know because that's what you're told, but you don't see the emails. You don't see the back end of, hey, by the way, this set is due in 3 weeks for Marvel Platinum or Premiere. I'm sorry. Here's all of them. Do as many of them as you can. That's what happened to Simone. He got them 3 weeks before they had to be put in the foil. Guys, 21 days on top of his already jobs. So when I saw people complaining that things weren't done on the back or whatever, you know, I told Simone, just don't do them. Don't do them. Let everybody else not have your art available in a pack. When you're going to hear negative stuff about you don't know the backstory. You don't know how it goes. I still, people ask me all the time, Simone posted a video. He signed from Fleer Ultra Avengers, some Venoms when he was coming out of the egg. He signed 15 of them, or 63 of them, or whatever the number was. We still don't know where they are. I don't know if they're going to be an e-pack. I don't know where they're going to, nobody tells you anything. So when people want to comment like he didn't put his best effort in, or this was different, or this wasn't an official blank, yes, they are. You just don't know that. You just don't know where they came from.
Yeah. No, the blanks thing is interesting, and there's been a lot of this. I think the fairest way to say it is disturbance in the force. There's been other content out about this. My relationship with sketch cards is probably coming to an end anyway, just because my collecting tastes have moved on, and I've already downsized my collection. I'm probably about to downsize it again.
At one point, didn't you have like a couple hundred though? I
had a couple of hundred. I narrowed it down to 79, and I've probably got about another 20 that are still on eBay. One's just made its way in. One is behind Wesley there.
Nice.
Foreman, dual panel. You see, a lot of the people, I've been having a good think about this because there was a lot of posts a couple of weeks ago, and they got a bit passionate. Probably
No,
the
I
polite
actually
way.
will say I read a lot of those.
Yeah,
I actually thought
and there were
good
some
on
really
us
good points. There's
because
some really good
nobody
points.
freaked out. There was like
No,
100 comments,
Mm.
100 plus, and when you
It was a
have
great
that
conversation.
many people saying that many opinions, it's very hard for people not to just
Go overboard.
pop
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I felt like
Shocking.
there
Shocking
were-
that no one was banned.
And
Yeah,
there were
it was.
great points on both ends. I
Yeah.
get it. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand it. It's
Yeah.
a pointed argument on either end.
Well, the space that I think the people who are really, really like in bed with sketch cards, and when I say in bed, you've seen the movie Indecent Proposal, yeah, where Demi Moore's rolling around in all those dollar bills.
Oh, yeah.
That was
probably
good,
more
Demi,
than
too.
one.
They're in the sketch
Mhm.
card.
Yeah, seriously, there are collectors who could do that if they chose, and I will let you, in your own time, visualize those people rolling around in sketch cards without any clothes on, a la Demi Moore. You go for
It's a great visual.
But Matt Fuller, if you're listening, please make that happen.
Yeah.
But the people that are really into sketch cards, and there's no problem with this whatsoever, and I started when I started like collecting black cards. I started with sketch cards. That was my thing. When we spoke to Warren Martinek for episode 100, by the way, it's episode 200 in a few weeks, guys. What the fuck?
Oh, you guys are climbing.
What the fuck? Episode 200.
Where's the time go?
But yeah, Warren Martinek spoke about the fact that he would do that curation and kind of litmus test of artists who wanted to be in sketch cards, and he would give them advice, and they'd submit stuff, and not everyone would be, so he was kind of the art director, I guess, the gatekeeper.
Yep.
As well as doing an inordinately high amount of really, really high, and Warren Martinek, he's a guy you'd be happy to see alongside Simone's work, for example. He's amazing, but he doesn't work on Upper Deck sets, as far as I'm aware. I don't think he ever has. I think he's always been Rittenhouse. Anyway, and he was kind of, as well as being an artist he was kind of working at Rittenhouse doing that job. Now, I don't know, because we've never really spoken to Upper Deck about a lot of how their department works. I think the closest we came was speaking to Jen Wu, who was kind of more on the kind of artist liaison. I think she would have probably dealt with Simone when he was doing Masterpieces.
Yeah, she's awesome. Shout out to Jen.
Yeah. And she's lovely, and I'm kind of still keep in touch with her via the joys of the internet. But I don't know how it works now. But the way it used to work with Rittenhouse is that. And I believe in the contracts with Upper Deck, it is actually, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, because you might have seen them, but certainly for sketch card artists, I believe you're supposed to return the sketches. And, Tony Perner was on Matt's stream the other night saying that even he is a really kind of a small batch, doing his own sets. They send stuff out, and they'll get only some of them back, and they'll be like, "Oh, where's the rest of the blanks?" And that happens, unfortunately. So there is a kind of a viewpoint that there is a perception that if an artist gets those blanks, they're supposed to return them. Now, whether that's a contractual reality or not will very much vary depending on the set.
To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I'm just kind of
have to look in like.
I'm just kind of saying I'm just kind of mentally like writing the script of what I'm going to say in my head. A lot of people who are used to, from the Rittenhouse days, and used to the kind of the disciplines might be the wrong word, because that implies that Upper Deck don't have that, but the structure that they're more familiar with, shall we say, because Rittenhouse have been very open and Ron Martinek's been on, and people are aware of how that works. There is a viewpoint that potentially pack pulled sketches that don't go back, the pack stock, not the AP stock, but the pack stock, is no one actually said this on the post, but some people came very close to saying stolen goods. And so, some people do have that lens. If it hasn't gone back, it shouldn't be out there. But what you've just told me is kind of a bit of a kind of like a shaft of light. Of like, oh my OMFG. If that's the reality of it for Simone, maybe it's the reality of it for other folks as well. And so Masterpieces 2020 was the first set I really saw it happening. There were blanks being sold on eBay, like pack insert blanks, aplenty.
Right. Now I don't know if that that applies to everyone. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know.
I also might think that there's, like I said, it might make people upset or whatever it is, but it's the truth. There's levels to what there's seniority of being in the industry. And if you want to work on something and you have the status of a Simone Bianchi, a Gabriele Dell'Otto, a Joe Giusco, and you say, hey, send me a couple sketches, Upper Deck would be foolish not to send you one because they send you them because they want you on the list.
Yeah.
But this is what I tell people. So say those cards come in and they have the intention of doing it. Somebody gets sick or Marvel calls and they say, we need this cover done. Without a doubt, that has to go because you have a contractual obligation to Marvel to do this. So then the cards are there. They don't get done. I would also argue that not that they're stolen goods. I mean, maybe depending on contractual bylaws, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not, can't see that, but I can also see a different viewpoint of, now the artist has the time to be able to put forth exactly what they want on the card. There are no character limitations. There are no set. And I have the time to sit down. And this is like, I can speak for Simone on this. He goes, I only want to do sketch cards when we get about 10 or 15, 10 to 20 of them. Because once I get in sketch card mode, I'm in it and I can go. He goes like, when he does like the ones that we just did, he does all of those back to back to back to back to back. Cause he's like, Matt, I cannot go from 18 by 24 poster to 2x3. It's not going to be a good representation for my work. So what he'll do is he actually has like literally cut out pieces of like paper. He'll do sketches on them for layouts of just things in his mind to get them to be that size, 3 or 4 of them. And like, they're just like circle, line, web, they're very rough, but he's in his mind, he already sees it done. And he's like, okay, now I can go to the sketch card. And then he starts with a pencil on this one, then a pencil on this one, then a pencil on this one. Then he goes back and he does another 3, pencil, pencil, pencil. So now he's got 6. He'll go back to the first 3 and paint. Then he picks up the next 3 and he paints those 3. Then those 6 are done. And it's
very interesting.
It's a time frame and a space that he's comfortable in doing them, which is going to lead to the best art. I think the sanctity of the set argument, I completely understand. That's the one that resonates with me the most. I get that. But I don't collect cards as much as I used to. I favor original art. And if the thing says AP, it doesn't say AP, it has no border, it's painted over, it doesn't bother me. If the art on there is beautiful, that's what I care about. And when we have guys that are literally color penciling stuff that are like my, 7th grade nephew can do, and they're going into a set, then the box is, $500. And I can pay for an $800 commission from an artist who's a legend and get exactly what I want. I see that side of the opportunity too. So it's a give and take. I don't think, to be honest with you, either side's right.
Oh, there's no right answer. It's all subjective. No, that's the thing.
I was going to say, I think you said it best. It's just change. So it's a disturbance in the force, and change isn't always bad and it's not always good. It's about what you can make of it. And I think the community, very humble opinion of mine, the community just has to maybe take a step back and see where it lands first. And we need to see what Upper Deck, if there was a major problem here, guys, Upper Deck would have addressed it by now. Like, they would have said, we're not getting our blanks back. Everyone give them back. If you don't give them back, you're off the sets. They would have done that. But
I think there's a concern that Disney are about to make that determination, though.
And they very well could, and it could change the landscape. It really could. But for now, I think I keep going back to it, is everybody collects their own way. Everybody should have the right to collect whatever they want, and an artist should be able to draw on whatever they want. I met a very interesting guy at OAX, craziest commission response I ever heard. He goes, can I have a hand by Simone Bianchi? A hand? He was like, yeah, a hand.
Sure he wasn't soliciting something?
No, wait. It's
Sorry, I had to.
A hand? He's like, yeah, a hand. I'm like, I don't know. I got to talk to Simone. I talked to Simone. He's like, no. I go back and I talk to the guy. He's like, well, I just want Wolverine from here up with his claws out.
I'm like, I'm with you.
Okay, makes more sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like, all right,
well,
better than a hand, not just like this, but yeah. I'm like, okay, you know, we don't have a rate for that. You know, like, let me talk. And we didn't end up getting it done, but we are. And because when he told me this, I was like, holy shit, dude. Oh, sorry. That's what swear. I'm like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah, you swear if you want. I've
I'm
stopped
like,
censoring
I'm
you.
sorry, I swear all the time. I'm like, holy crap, dude, this is an amazing story. I'm gonna go back. And then like the collector in me kicks in. I'm like, I'm gonna fight with him to get this done because this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he ended up agreeing to it, and we're gonna get it done for August. This guy is a hand surgeon and he loves Marvel Comics. And in his office, he has his favorite artists do just like hands and arms of their favorite character, and he has them throughout his office. So like he had a Barry Windsor Smith Weapon X, he had a Mike Mignola Right Hand of Doom, a Doctor Doom gauntlet, a Wolverine with claws out, Cyclops with the glove on. I'm like, holy crap, dude. What an amazing way to collect. He's like, yeah, I have 9x12s, 11x17s. I have a couple cards, whatever I can get. First knee-jerk reaction, this dude's bizarre.
Right.
After a 10-minute conversation with him, who am I to tell him that getting it on a card, on a piece of paper, on a napkin, whatever he wanted, that is an amazing story. He's like, when I was in medical school, I was reading comic books. That's what I saved up my money for. Now that all the kids that come in with broken arms and hands, they love my office. I'm like, this guy's a legend. This guy is so cool. And like when he first came up to me, I'm like, this dude's bizarre. Like, I don't really like this guy. It's interesting. So I try to keep that mindset for the sketch card argument as well, is everybody has their own reasons of collecting, what stock, why they want it, vertical, horizontal, whatever. And if you can get it that way, great. I understand that upsets the flow of things somehow, but then it's got to regulate itself somehow. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But everybody has their own way of collecting. And I think it's super important to allow everyone to enjoy the hobby in their own unique way. And because that's how we all got here. We all got here from some unique experience that brought us. That's how I started collecting. That's how I started buying comic books. You know, I was the kid that I played basketball in high school and tennis, but I sat with the nerds on Wednesdays because I'm a nerd. And then we talked about comics. Like that's what we did because New Comic Book Day was coming out. So we talk about where our mom was going to drive us, what store to go pick up our books. Then we'd read and talk about the next books coming out Wednesday. And my like jock friends, you know how high school is. It's a bizarre time. They were like, why are you sitting with those nerds? I'm like, because I like those guys. Like these are my people. I just play sports with you guys. I talk to these guys. And you know, I try to keep that mindset of, you know, there was a time where collecting wasn't cool. There was a time where this, you know, it wasn't awesome. And now we're making movies and we're seeing shows and all these things that have happened in the last 12, 15 years. It doesn't matter if someone just saw their first Marvel movie and that's what turned it on, or they opened up their first pack and they pulled their first sketch card and that's what turned them on. We all got here somehow, and we got to make sure we're not alienating people like we were at one point. We were kept out of it. And I think that's super important to me. So I always try to keep in mind that whatever anybody says, there has to be that there is some, you know, there's right and wrong, obviously, but there's some version of their way of collecting inside of it. And, you know, I hope everybody gets to keep collecting the way they want to get collected and don't get looked down upon for getting a hand from Simone Bianchi, because that was
wow.
Yeah, I love that you stuck the landing on that one. Can I quickly touch on Black Bolt?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your relationship. But I mean, Jason, do you want to?
Well, I've been kind of quiet listening.
Yeah, Jason, talk to me.
I haven't really interacted with Matt and crossed paths with him, but I watched your IG live yesterday, and
thank you.
I really liked just your passion and you showed a lot of great stuff, and you had kind of a versatility in the different styles and artists and everything. But so Black Bolt, when did that kind of begin? As far as has he always been your guy? I know earlier you mentioned Fantastic Four, so I can see the connection.
So yeah, that's where it started for sure. I think if I have one characteristic about myself that I enjoy the most and I hate the most, it's that I have to I have to consume everything. I can't just like do something halfway. I have to like really go. And it's helped me out a lot in life, and it's put me behind a lot in life in some cases. So when I really started deciding I was going to trim down my variant collection and I wanted to go into one direction, I had a really couple big decisions to make. I was either going to go the Avengers route, I was going to go the X-Men route, or I was going to go the Fantastic Four route. I wasn't going to do Spider-Man because, to be quite honest, I didn't have the money at the time. I couldn't do AF-15, ASM-1, and ASM-1 to 800. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So then I started looking at GPA trends, and then when I really started looking at it, the Fantastic Four is Marvel's first family. It's the first group of superheroes, and I thought from not only an investment standpoint, but from a collecting standpoint, that would be the direction I wanted to go. So when I decided that, I went out and I got like the compendium editions of Fantastic Four, and I got like the first 5, I think, and from Fantastic Four like 36 to 75 or 80 is probably in my opinion, the best comic run of all time. You get the introduction of so many characters from like 36 to 70. It's insane. You get Medusa, you get the Inhumans, you get Black Bolt, you get Silver Surfer, you get Galactus, you get mentions of Annihilus, Franklin Richards, you get Black Panther, you get Ulysses Claw. I mean, you just get an immense amount of characters that spawned off and went and did their own amazing things and turned into amazing stuff. So as I was reading through the compendiums, I was like, wow, because you obviously know a lot of the people I put on the list, Surfer, Galactus, Black Panther.
Right.
I start reading like through the Inhumans section essentially, and I'm like, wow, this dude is like fucking balling. He is like the man. He is so strong. Nobody knows about him. Nobody's talking about him. And I felt like he had like an unjustified, he hadn't gotten like the shine he needed, because he's like, a lot of people don't realize like he can go one-on-one with like the Thing, the Hulk, Thanos. I mean, he ends up losing eventually to bring in the groups to help him. But I also think his story's crazy. For those that don't know, he's born an Inhuman, which is the elevated version of the X-Men. His parents, because then, of course, once I read that, I went back and I wanted to read all the Inhuman stories. So I started buying all the Inhuman stories and trade paperbacks and Amazing Adventures and things like that. And his parents are basically the king and the queen. They run Adelan, and you kind of have like an awakening of your powers. Black Bolt, a child, he cries in his sleep and he brings down basically the governmental house, which his family lived in. He kills his mom and dad. So you have a guy that has like an immense power. The quote unquote his like best move is called the Master Blow, and it can like blow up a planet. And he can't use it. Like he has just this immense power and he can't do it. So he has to go into like monk-like training where he doesn't sneeze in his sleep. He doesn't talk in his sleep. He doesn't, like when he stubs his toe, he doesn't talk. He has to go through this like immense training ritual to not refine his power, but to almost hinder it, to make it livable, to make him be able to use it. And then he carries himself in such a way that he's powerful and what he's doing is to protect the land. So I always think it's, the term of him being the Silent King is what's most important to me, is because he leads a group of the elevated version of the X-Men. They all respect him. They all have insane powers and he can't say a word, but they know if he talks that he'll always have their back. So his story really just, and then, it evolved from there. And I just started, trying to collect all the things he was in. And, to be a leader of an elite group of people and not be able to talk is pretty impressive. And then I liked his relationship with Medusa. And then, I like Medusa from like Greek mythology. And how Medusa can understand him basically without talking to him. And then she's kind of his voice. Plus, my family's in the hair care business, and Medusa having really cool hair, kind of brought out close. So yeah, it was cool. But then I realized that there weren't a lot of like Black Bolt fans out there, and I was able to get some like amazing art for very cheap prices. And once again, back to the commission thing, very honestly, when I ask people to do Black Bolt, 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, I haven't drawn him in a long time. I'd love to draw him. Or like, oh man, I've never drawn him. I've always wanted to. Because he's, Simone says it all the time. He's perfect for anatomy because he's not Superman that's supposed to be huge, or Hulk. That's why he's like Silver Surfer in that aspect, where he has perfect anatomy, and it's a really good chance for an artist to like flex their skills on something like that. And I also love that his costume hasn't changed very much since he's been initiated. Everybody else has gone through 25 different remakes of their costume, and he's just been tried and true and classic throughout his from his comic debut to now. So it's been really cool, and that's kind of how I got started on him, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious as far as if it was from the comics. I know my first introduction to him was actually the 1994 Marvel Masterpiece card set with the Hildebrands, and reading the back of it. But yeah, he's always been an interesting character to me. What was your first original Black Bolt piece you picked up? Was it
Royals number 1 cover prelim by Simone?
Nice.
Yeah, it has Black Bolt like this, and he's like about to scream, and back behind him is Gorgon, who's like his right hand man. He's like the centaur, like half horse.
Right.
And I bought it in 2017, and it's like one of the ones where it's like got the washes and the tones, because Simone's prelims are like insane. And every year in one of the original art groups of Facebook that I'm in, that's Simone and Gloria remember selling it to an Italian collector, but they have no idea where it went. And the prelim just made it because nobody else really liked Black Bolt or Gorgon.
Right.
So it was like 3 years prior. So every year in February on my birthday, so I just made it, I just put a picture of the cover. I'm like, if anybody knows where this is, please let me know. It's like, I'm hoping someday some guy logs on.
It'll pay off sooner or later.
I have that. I'll sell it to you.
Yeah. Well, I can spread the word. I can put it on the show notes.
Yeah.
So,
Royals number 1. If you ever see it, let me know. I'll give you a finder's fee.
I very recently discovered that there's a signed card that Simone did of Black Bolt from Fleer Retro, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've just recently become aware of the fact that exists. So I'm going to be tracking that one down, because
I might have one if you need. I could mail it to you.
Well, let's talk. Let's talk.
When I say I have one, I think I have like 7 or 8.
I know exactly what you're going to say. I mean, I'm going to do a bit of show and tell. Sorry, Jason. I've got to do this while we're on it. I bought this in group.
No, I'm good.
I bought this in group about 9 months ago. Someone was selling it, and I think he was selling it. It was less than $70. I got it for. So it's the Rainbow Achievement Storm.
Oh yeah,
with a post-match signature aftermarket.
Wow.
I think the kids call that. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. Who's had the Rainbow Achievements from MM 2018?
I wish they did a whole like insert like that. They're amazing.
Just ridiculous.
They're amazing.
We're talking Fleer Ultra Spider-Man level of rainbow foiling. When they got it right on these, and it's Storm, and it's got Simone's signature in silver ink, and it's it's just lovely.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
I love that card.
Yeah, it's just such a cool.
I like those better than the see-through one.
Yeah, I mean, the see-through ones are lovely.
Not that they're not cool, but those ones, just when you pick them up and the light hits them like the iridescent, like the see-through one was cool, but I like that one. Yeah, that was like the coolest achievement for me.
They just hit. I think it's with 2018. I've got my base set 1-81. I've got my purple tier 4. I've got the base battle, the base canvas, the base hollow, which is what I do with my MM sets. That's my set for any MM set, whatever it is. But with MM 2018, I'm going back to the well. I'm acquiring graded PSA oranges.
Oh.
I don't care what the grade is. I just love them slabbed because they just look so cool.
They're awesome.
And the oranges really work with Simone's. The purples don't quite work for me, but the oranges they kind of lift and set off the darker pieces. So
I just have one orange, but I love it.
Oh,
it brightens the card up. It brightens the card up because we've seen perfect trim. Yeah, because we've seen the original art and how much brighter it is to when Upper Deck transferred it over.
I mean, I've got
this beautiful
Sabertooth one. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Yep,
with the orange sig.
Very nice.
Whoa.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
That's beautiful. So yeah, I'm a sucker for it. It's the gift that keeps on giving for me. This set.
Keeps on giving.
Well, it is, because for me, it's I started MMC, and this was the first Masterpieces release. And
how about this one?
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of these.
Oh, right. Well, we'll have a chat.
I'll send you one.
I need to talk to you about that Spider-Man as well.
I think the only one I have
Oh yes.
that's a good one.
That's the one I got. I got lucky in that break.
That is,
Yeah, you absolutely nailed that break as
that
well.
is awesome.
Wow.
That's the card right there.
Yeah.
yeah. And then
That-
I got the 1 out of 25 the other day too.
Oh, the
Oh,
orange.
wow.
Oh,
Nice.
snap. Yeah, I've got the
Gotta get
orange
this.
and
What
the
the?
sig. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
beautiful.
the original art for that one sold immediately.
I know who's got it as well.
I
We
can
talked about it.
imagine.
Yeah.
That one sold immediately.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Wow. Okay. But before we let Matt go, has anyone else got any questions for Matt? Because
I have two.
I'm aware of the fact
I have
we've been going for 2 hours. So Keith, go for it.
One, you've got not one, but now two Simones. Who will be the third?
Oh, I don't know. We said the other day, you got to just be Italian and have your first name be Simone, and then we can work together.
And then you come to the collective.
No, but I've heard I've actually had that question a lot, and I have a unique perspective on it when it comes to this, because I think what's happened is there's a lot of different art representation groups out there, and they all do very well. I want to make it very clear, everybody's path to success or path to happiness is different. I prefer quality over quantity. I don't want to just add artists to add artists. I have a rule: when I add an artist, I don't add another artist for 9 months, because that 9 months gives me the ability to work with that artist on a level where I now understand everything that they expect of me, and they understand everything that I deliver. And any hiccups or bumps in the road that we have, we clear in that 9 months. You normally hit anything that you're going to bump into in the first 9 months, or in 9 months, you're going to work through. And then it becomes kind of seamless. Like, I know exactly what they want. I know their thought process. I know how they think, or they know what I'm going to say, vice versa. Like, there will be times where people come up and ask for things at conventions, and Simone Bianchi will look at me and I look at him, and we both know exactly what the answer is or what the price is. And we can just kind of go from there. Just recently added Simone Mio, who I love. He's another one of my Italian brothers. Going to be an absolute dynamo. He is on a DC exclusive, but he can do Marvel cards, which I just found out. So there's a potential for him to be maybe doing some sets, some insert stuff, maybe in the future. And he had no idea about anything like this. He didn't understand anything about cards. He didn't know anything. I had him and Simone talk kind of at OAX and MegaCon. They started chit-chatting back and forth about, the versions of collecting and things like that. So, for me, it's more about, I want to make sure that I'm delivering exactly what that person's looking for, because sometimes people, like I said, how did you do this? I want to get into it. I tell people, like, more power to you, but be careful. Because when you become somebody's art representative, that's their livelihood. Selling this is how they make money. Doing published work and selling this is how they provide for their family. And if you're not ready to provide for them at that level every day, when somebody reaches out, if it's midnight, if that means it's 6 a.m. in Italy and somebody's an early riser and they want to buy something for me, I got to answer. You have to do that for them. It's super important. So right now I'm on a hiatus for 9 months, unless Alex Ross or Olivier Coipel or Bill Sienkiewicz comes along, but they're not. They already have some amazing they already have amazing representatives like Quan and Sal Avenanti. But I do plan on adding more artists, but my goal is to make sure that everybody that comes on, I never want to go more than 6. And everyone that comes on, I want them to feel like they have an understanding of, I know the importance of what they're entrusting me with, and we build a relationship, and then we go from there. I think sometimes people just add, and they maybe get lost in the shuffle. I never want that to happen with anybody that I work with.
Nice. And then, so Wes showing that Midnight Suns card made me think of this. We talked about recently the Midnight Suns set and how some of the cards didn't belong. Can you say, I don't know if you can speak on this, but like the Colossus, beautiful piece. Was there ever a direction from Upper Deck what these pieces would be for? Did they just come to you guys and say, hey, we need a couple cards from you? Can you make some?
They came in. A lot of the cards were actually supposed to be for Fleer Ultra Avengers and just didn't go in.
I knew it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then how does that work? They can just use that art however they want. It doesn't matter.
I bought the Scarlet Witch. I have the Scarlet Witch original art. I should have put that on one of the easels because she's stunning. I never bought. She started my Scarlet Witch collecting, which now I have. I collect Black Bolt, Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer, and Scarlet Witch now.
Nice.
And my fiance's room has nothing to do with how beautiful or great of a woman she is, but it's the room of the witch. I built her a closet and it's all the original Scarlet Witch in there. I have stuff from Peach, from Olivier Coipel,
Nice.
but Simone's was the first. And I walked into the studio, and I swear to God, she looked like she could have just walked out of the wall. It was the most like there was a Doctor Strange next to her. The Doctor Strange is beautiful. I love Doctor Strange. Literally walked right past it. She was like right in front of me, and it was crazy. Like I don't know. It was like one of the things with like the Mona Lisa. She felt like she was following me. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a dark spookiness to that one.
Yeah, she's crazy, and that's what I like. It's like the Dark Scarlet Witch. It's like when she's like messed up by the Darkhold. I bought that in May
Is that
of
that one?
20. Yes, yeah. I bought that in May of 2022. That came out this year, like a month ago.
Yeah.
So once again, people think they know what's going on and the things behind the scenes. They don't, because I still have.
There's pieces you can't show that
I still have 2 paintings that are going to be an upcoming set, which we've heard are going to be May or June of this year. And when they reach out or we reach out, like, hey, how do you update? It'll be in a future set. It's just what we hear. And then that's pretty much it. Wow. I think COVID really, decimated them and threw off the timeline, and it's not something that's going to regulate soon. But like, I still have 2 pieces, and I know there's a couple other people that have some pieces that I'm understanding are going to be like an insert of just his art. And they're from like historic, I can't say this, they're from historic moments in comic book history. And I think there's 8 or 10 of them. And they're like his renditions of them. So very excited for those to come up. But once again, those were done in June of 2022.
Yeah, I mean, there were pieces that were purchased at the breakfast that I still haven't seen come to life.
Correct. So they're out
I've
there.
seen a couple. Yeah, as Simone spoke about at the breakfast, he said, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, if he was saying that even in the content for Marvel Masterpieces that it wasn't, it seemed like the high prints were selected with pure intention, but he said there was no guidance or correspondence, just what was going to be a hologram, a Battle Specter's obvious, but what was going to be the holofoils or anything like that, there was no.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like you would think it's this detailed 12-page document, base set.
Oh yeah.
Characters, 90. Here's the list of characters. Choose your 90 from this. Here's the exempt. No, it's a different experience than most would think, for sure.
Interesting.
I just like just getting into original art recently. Where's the best place to find it? I mean, is there what, like the site you were talking about earlier, or is that the reason it's so great because you can't find it? Or
Wesley, don't go on that site, whatever you do.
Yeah, the reason why I opened up my website is because original art is hard to find. And of course, being very clear, like we said, everybody has a different perspective. There want to be the original art community, the card community. We're all 95% of us, 99% of us, great people, but there are the few bad apples. And when people get bad experiences, it maybe turns them off to the hobby. So, there's very reputable art dealers that you can go to. I can give you a couple. First off, I would say myself. I just started, but I have a pretty cool website doing an update in March.
What is that website, Matt? Come on.
It's DitullioArtCollective.com.
We'll put it in the show notes, folks, in case you have any trouble with spelling.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I will text it over. But also like Anthony's comic book art. Anthony Snyder. Anthony's father was Keith. You probably know his father, Jimmy the Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Anthony's dad was Jimmy.
Wow.
And and Anthony had a passion his whole life for comic book art, and he took some, he took his passion away from what his dad was doing, but met amazing people, lived an amazing life. I've done a ton of business with Anthony. He has some amazing original art. Then there's Mike Berkey. He's Romita Man. So you go to romitaman.com. Mike Berkey is, one of the bigger art dealers in the world as well. Focusing primarily on Spider-Man art, John Romita. I mean, he had like ASM 100, the cover, like he had ASM 50, the cover, like ASM 13.
Wow.
I mean, wild stuff.
Wow.
Then Albert Moy, he's another one, albertmoy.com. Albert Moy has just, he reps Bruce Timm. So anybody likes Batman, the animated series or that style, amazing stuff. so there are, and then comic art fans. The best thing I can tell anybody that wants to get into original art, shout out to Bill Cox. He owns Comic Art Fans. It is just a digital gallery of community. The people that go in, you can create your own and post as much as you want, or you can just see what other people have out there. And it's one of my favorite things to do, is because every time I think I've hit a milestone with my collection, like I just did with my first Jack Kirby page that had Black Bolt on it from Amazing Adventures, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to do my best to smell the roses for a couple of weeks here. And then I'm going to hop on CAF and start typing in Black Bolt again and start looking through other people's artwork, or, I send people some messages sometimes. Absolutely stunning. If this is ever for sale, please let me know. And collectors want to help out collectors. They want to make sure that if they're selling something, it goes to the proper spots. So, there's also a show. It's called Dueling Dealers of Comic Book Art. It's on every Wednesday, and it's on the CAF YouTube channel. And it's Mike Berkey versus Anthony, and it's a boxing format. So there's 12 rounds. Each person gets 2 pieces per round. So you get 24 pieces of artwork through each dealer. And there's a total of money spent. You can claim in the chat. You get invoiced the next day. And Bill, who owns CAF, he's the mediator. It is like religion at my house. Every Wednesday at 9:00, Dueling Dealers of Comic Book Art's on. It's on the big TV. I've got my computer out. And even if I don't buy anything, I just love seeing art. I love hearing them talk about where they got it, the story it came from. You see some stuff on there that you might not normally see. You see X-Men 90s, X-Men, the animated series, original painted cells. You see Mike Mignola, a playing card. He did a deck of cards, and it was like the front of the cards. Just crazy different published art that you would never see anywhere else unless on these shows or on these sites. So I just try to keep my ear to the ground. Sometimes I just Google original art, original comic book art, and I see what comes up, and I go from there.
Wesley's got a glazed look over his eyes.
Yeah, his eyes went bang.
Wesley, I just hit you up. Another one, Wesley. Essential Sequential. That's Jason. He owns Essential Sequential. Jason reps like some amazing artists: Brian Stilfree, Sean Crystal, nice. David Finch. I mean, those guys, like, amazing. Matteo Scalera, just some guys that are just like mind-blowingly good. And there's plenty of them. There's plenty of these companies out there that are either art rep companies that rep these artists and sell their art for them, or that are art dealers. I could send you guys a couple like Facebook links, for some groups, buy, sell, trade, some things like maybe the Marvel Masterpiece stuff. But it's really cool, and I think we're right. The major thing for me where I'm very happy is I think we're right on the cusp of comic book art being considered fine art. Like these guys that are painting, especially like a Simone, an Alex MacLeod, an Eddie Granoff, a Dell'Otto, an Alex Ross, if they painted a landscape, they'd be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They are that good, like every painting, but they're painting superhero art, and it has that level of quality, and it's right on the cusp of it being accepted as fine art. When you see stuff like Boris and Julie Vallejo stuff at auction going for a ton of money, Frank Frazetta, every time he has an auction, it sets a new high, and we're right on the cusp of what we collect every day and what we remember as being, like I said, maybe not the cool thing, for that to start to be really considered fine art. I try to say I'm not a comic art dealer. I like fine art, because the stuff that we sell is fine art, or that I buy or sell is fine art. And especially for somebody like Simone, who takes Renaissance feel, Renaissance history, Italian history, and then blends that into Spider-Man and blends that into Black Cat or into Wolverine, is crazy. And there will be a time, I think, when it's looked back in, 30, 40 years, where like people are going to say, oh my God, you could buy an Alex Ross for 20,000 because it's going to be 200,000. Yeah. Oh, you could buy a Bianchi for 10,000. They're 100, they're $50,000, $60,000 now. I think we're really starting to get there, because while auctions are having some lows in some cases, that's another thing I try to do. I have a spreadsheet of every piece that's ever been sold at auction by Simone, so I understand the trends of what's happened with his work and the economy and things like that. But every auction, one piece is breaking a record, and that was kind of something that we thought would slow down, post COVID or whatever it was, but it's not. So it's a really cool thing, and I think we're right on the cusp of it being widely considered as this stuff will be fine art.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I just like absolutely blew your mind. I'm so sorry. He just
But
gave you
it's
like
also
Yeah, no,
great
it's
because
cool.
you're so passionate about it. It's I mean it's
And he's
great.
just pulling addresses, names,
Right.
everything.
Yeah,
Just
well,
like bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
bang.
I have like a routine. Like I said, I have a very, very supportive fiance and I love her. Like every night I am on 6 to 7 websites from 10 to midnight, checking for my personal collection and then checking for stuff that I think I could sell. And if you're not going to be doing it, somebody else is.
It's called doing your
And,
homework.
and if something goes up for sale or an eBay auction's ending, like you have to be there. You have to
Yeah.
you have to know that, when, I'll go back to like my Kirby page. I missed one and I have no problem saying you can look up what the prices are. I missed one about a year ago that was a Jack Kirby Fantastic Four page that had Black Bolt on it. And it was like, it went for like 16,000 and I bid 15. And looking back, I'm like, what was I arguing myself over $1,000? I'm already just spending way too much money. And what happens is when I buy something like that, it motivates me to sell what I have to clear that up, to clear that debt. The Amazing Adventures page came up and I was like, all right, this is from the first Inhumans story. I'm not going to miss it again. The auction preview came. I saw it 30 days in advance. I just started selling stuff right away. I was like, I am going to have 10 in the bank before I even start, because the last time I saw Jack Kirby Black Bolt was over 13 months ago. Like you don't know when you're going to see him. It's not him drawing Spider-Man or, Steve Ditko drawing, where there's Sal Buscema drawing Hulk, where there's like a shit ton of them. There's just not. So I literally like prepped myself like, okay, 10 is what I already have in the bank. And now I have to work for that. And I ended up getting it for like 10.8, which was great. So I only had to pay $800 of stuff that I didn't have, but I had made a decision that this was it. Like this, and it was an Amazing Adventures, not a Fantastic Four, which maybe I could now trade this one that I just got for a Fantastic Four page in the future. But the major thing is that I have something from the guy who created my favorite character that helped mold the Marvel universe. And it's literally older than most things that anybody ever has other than their house they live in. And it's still in good shape. So it was a major win for me, but I'm never stopping. I'm always trying to do something. And that's when my fiance reminds me, you got to take a step back, smell the roses, try to enjoy yourself a little bit, be happy with what you have and thankful and go from there.
I think that Amazing Adventures is a cool book. I mean, I think that's a good one.
I was super happy. Yeah.
It's awesome. I like the Black Widow stuff on it, but
oh yeah, Black Widow. She's and especially like early Black Widow, how they drew her like in the sexy get up with a half a zipper. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But give me 1 second, guys, before we sign off, because I totally forgot about that. Nobody's seen this. I've never even scanned it. Give me 1 second.
Where's he going?
What's he going to get, Mister?
I don't know. It's like, what's he going to pull out of the bag here?
What's behind the door?
Is he going to come out with the Mary Jane outfit? Like
yes.
While he's gone,
Jason,
perfect opportunity.
like
Jason did. Sorry.
Like,
oh no, he's back. He's back before I had a chance to say it. Never mind. Here he comes. Right, what are we going to see?
oh.
Right. For those on audio, sorry, not sorry. For those on YouTube,
holy
my
crap!
God.
So what we're seeing now, I'm not going to be
He's
that
seen
cruel.
right through me.
This is
Soul
the
Stealer.
Scarlet Witch original art from Fleer Ultra. I'm just going to make that. Sorry, I'm just so gobsmacked. I'm not even making that big on the screen.
Yeah.
There it is.
Look at that.
Wow.
Gosh.
Oh man, look at those eyes.
Yeah,
She's
she's a stunner. She's crazy.
Back it up a bit, sir, so we can see the full thing.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's
That's
18
stunning.
by 24.
Nice frame job.
Thank you. Yeah, I got a local frame guy.
Yeah.
He frames everything for me.
I've always liked your frames. Whenever I've seen you showing them off I've seen that one with the is that Hercules?
Which one?
Is that Hercules from MM 2018? No, the other one.
Behind me?
That's Gorgon.
No, this is Namor versus Hyperion.
No, the other one.
This one's really cool. So this is like that labor of love we talked about. This is Gorgon.
Oh, Gorgon. Sorry,
but it's the full rainbow.
That's it. Yeah,
nice.
I'm sure I've seen that before.
So it has a plate, a 1 of 1.
That's beautiful.
The base, the gold signature, the what if, the purple, the orange, and then the crazy part is I actually was able to get, this is one of the ones that Simone sent to Upper Deck for redemption.
Right.
So I actually was able to trade one of the ones that I got for redemption for Gorgon, and then I own the painting. So this is literally everything.
Is that the red spec on there as well? Do I see at the bottom? There we go. Yeah, full set.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just the red comes through because the light's on it. Yeah, there we go. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
That's a rainbow.
Yeah, this is it. So at one point I had all the Inhumans but Medusa, and an Italian collector had her. And I finally reached out to him and I said, like, "Are you ever going to sell this?" And he was like, "No." So then I sold Crystal because she was the only other Inhuman woman. So now I have all the Inhuman guys. I have Karanak, Gorgon, Black Bolt, and Triton.
Right. Okay. There were so many of those characters. I don't think I've ever read Inhumans. So many of those characters were new to me from Masterpieces 2018, and that's what I love about the Masterpieces run. There were so many characters that were new from Palumbo's set. I mean, Pip the Troll.
Pip the Troll.
Yeah. Ego. I don't think Ego had been in a Masterpieces set at that point.
Yeah, no, Ego the Living Planet. Yeah.
So, and being a tier 4 character as well. I mean, hats off. Hats off.
Crazy.
I love it when they mix stuff up like that.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm gonna wrap us up because we're plus 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm in.
I really need a wee. And I'm sure you've got shit to get on with. So Matt, you've already said your website. Your Instagram is the same, isn't it?
Yep. Ditullio Art Collective. Yep.
Right. Okay. And what's next? What is there anything you can tell us about shows wise that's coming up?
So I'm going to be doing Fan Expo Cleveland with Simone Bianchi. And
what?
then, yep.
I'm in Ohio, so that's why.
Yep, we'll be there at Fan Expo Cleveland, and I will also have my portfolio of stuff for sale from myself. And then the big one that we'll be doing this year, other than Lake Como, is we're going to be at Fan Expo Toronto. Me and both of the Simones will be doing a breakfast and a dinner. There might even be an option to get something from both of the Simones for breakfast and dinner, maybe like a duo piece. We're going to work on something cool like that, but that's what's next. I got a March update on the website, and that's pretty much it.
Cool. Someone's phone is talking to us.
Well, I'm thinking about it, Matt. I just got these guys saw this, but
I'm trying to do another one this year. I want to do one a year. So I'm going to see which one Simone wants to pick. We're talking about launching it in May or June.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
that Silver Surfer.
That tier 4 Wolverine. I mean, the canvas one's amazing, but the tier 4 Wolverine, for me personally, and I know people will disagree with me on this, but I don't care, is the single greatest rendition of Wolverine I think I've ever seen.
It's amazing.
It's just, and I'm not, I like Wolverine, but I'm not mad about him. I'm not.
That one's crazy.
Go crazy, but
that's how I feel about the Cyclops.
It's just, the Cyclops is. I mean, let's face it, they're all good. Matt, thank you. I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
I can't believe it's been taken 198 episodes to have you on because, quite frankly, like I said, you are one of the OGs from Masterpieces.
If I'm welcomed back, I'll come back and do a new one. I love talking about stuff like this. It's enjoyable.
More than welcome. Next one.
Pleasure to meet you guys.
Let's do live.
And congratulations, Matt, on everything in your personal world, man.
Oh, man. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Great story.
All right, Matt. You know how we sign off our episodes. You've already said it.
Enjoy collecting.
There we go. Beautiful. Thanks for listening, folks. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. The podcast can be found by Googling @the MCC Pod, which is also a handle on Facebook and Instagram. If you have an idea for podcast topics or want to be on the podcast, please reach out via social media or email us at themccpod@gmail.com. Our Facebook communities are MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. Creative design and logos for the podcast and groups are by artist Michael Munshaw. You can find him on Instagram @artofm2. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, collect your way and always be kind to others. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.